Well, if it isn't Lily Astor, in high spirit for once. And you actually brought a date this time. A woman's voice, smooth as silk and sharp as glass, cut through the low murmur of the gathering. Still stewing over what I said last time, are you? Trying to prove a point. She sauntered closer, a vision in a black satin slip dress that clung to her formidable figure, every curve a statement of power and sensuality. With her long, straight black hair and an aura of unapologetic confidence, she was the quintessential ice queen, radiating a presence that demanded attention. It's about time you got a taste of what you've been missing. See? Big sister wasn't lying, was I? A high-quality man does a body good. The woman's casual vulgarity made Lily's brow twitch in annoyance. While Quinn Vanderbilt wasn't technically wrong, Lily had indeed discovered the benefits of having a man around. She refused to let Jax think she was using him like some kind of vitamin supplement, something to be tied up and consumed to fortify her. If you don't have anything intelligent to say, Quinn, don't say anything at all, Lily said. Her voice chilled, though she still guided Jax to a seat with a steady hand. They were in a glass-walled observation lounge, a rest area overlooking a vast, open training ground. In the distance, figures in tactical camouflage moved with cold, deadly precision. This was an exclusive, off-the-books training compound for the global elite, a private playground where the masters of the universe came to unwind, flex their power, and settle scores. It was one of many such places, but it was the first time Lily had ever brought Jax into her world, a world he had once sworn he would never enter. You certainly are protective of this one, Quinn purred, her eyes raking over Jax. Definitely an upgrade in the looks department. Your taste has improved, Lily. What happened to that emo train wreck you used to parade around like a prize poodle? Did you finally break him? Quinn's tongue was legendarily venomous. Anyone else who spoke to Lily that way would already be arranging their own funeral. But Quinn wasn't just anyone. She and Lily went way back, their friendship forged in fire, giving her a license to tease that no one else had. There was only ever Jax, Lily said, her voice dropping, her gaze fixed on Jax's hand. She picked it up, her fingers tracing his palm, turning it over and over as if she could never get enough of the feel of it. There will only ever be Jax. TSK. So you're the loyal type now, Quinn mused. Jax, is it? A pleasure to meet you. To the astonishment of everyone watching, Quinn Vanderbilt, a woman who wouldn't stand for a king, rose from her seat. She extended a hand to Jax. It was a gesture of immense respect, a formal acknowledgement of his place in their circle. A collective, silent gasp rippled through the lounge. A kept man like Jax. How'd he earn this? Before Jax could react, Lily intercepted, her hand closing around Quinn's. His hands are for me to touch, and me alone. Her eyes flicked to the young man sitting silently beside Quinn. If you're feeling handsy, go play with your new pet. It was a well-known fact that Quinn Vanderbilt collected pretty men like trophies, but never kept them. Rumor had it she was waiting for someone, and all the arm candy was just for show. The moment things got serious, the boy toys were unceremoniously kicked to the curb. Fine, Quinn laughed, a dazzling, dangerous smile. You win. She turned and draped an arm around the white-clad young man beside her, planting a loud kiss on his cheek. Mwah. See? You're still the goodest boy. The young man's ears flushed crimson. He coolly pulled out a small notebook and, with a grave expression, made an entry. One kiss on the cheek. $20,000. Jax blinked. This kid's got a hell of a side hustle. Lily saw Jax's expression and, glancing at Quinn's momentarily stunned and deflated look, allowed a sharp bark of laughter. Quinn Vanderbilt. Looks like you've finally met your match. Quinn pouted, a flicker of annoyance in her eyes. The little brat, embarrassing me like this. But there was something about the young man's prim, proper facade, the look of a reluctant saint forced into sin to pay for his father's medical bills. That just did it for her. Well, she declared, recovering instantly. The boy likes money, and I like the boy. No conflict there. How about we go for $100,000 kiss on the lips? She lunged, and the young man, Henry, shot up from his seat, a look of pure panic on his face that only made him look more like a cornered, adorable kitten. But Jax noticed that for all his supposed resistance, Henry never moved more than 2 feet away from Quinn. It was a disturbingly familiar dance. So, you tycoon sisters all have a thing for the forceful acquisition approach, huh? Enough, Lily said, her voice dripping with lazy boredom. Are we going to do this or not? Of course, Quinn's focus snapped back, her eyes gleaming. But what's the fun in it just being the two of us? It's always you showing off. Who can compete with your marksmanship? No, this time, we're changing the rules. I've spent the last month training my dear Henry here, specifically to take you down a peg. She leaned forward, the friendly air vanishing, replaced by the cold calculus of a rival. A one-on-one match. We each put our man in the ring to fight for us. How about it? Usual stakes. The East River Development Project. You win, the land deeds are yours. But if you lose, you and your firm stay out of the project entirely. It all goes to Vanderbilt Industries. Jack saw it clearly now. This wasn't a casual get-together. It was a battlefield disguised with champagne and polite smiles. Everyone here was driven by profit, and no one left empty-handed. Lily was a legend in these circles, her skills with firearms, from assembly to modification, as natural as breathing. She was always unbeatable. But when you stand at the summit for too long, people get eager to see you fall. And in their eyes, Jax was the chink in Lily Astor's armor. Her fatal flaw. Quinn might be Lily's friend, but business was business. And the man beside her, Henry, was no simple boy toy. Jax noticed the callous skin on the man's fingertips. He was a professional, a former mercenary, most likely. This was an ambush elegantly set for Lily. Lily's gaze flickered to Henry's hands, and she smiled faintly. That's a clever little plan, Quinn. Pitting a retired professional against my Jax. Don't you think that's a little unfair? Quinn laughed, utterly unabashed. TSK, you always see right through me. But it's no fun when you win every time, is it? And besides, you've been training him yourself. How can my little Henry possibly compare? Tell you what, I'll add the Rosewood estate in the Hamptons to the pot. Her eyes hardened as they settled on Jax again. Or do you have so little faith in your new boyfriend, Lily? Beneath the surface, it was clear. No one in Lily's circle truly liked Jax. Quinn wanted the development deal, but she also wanted to put Jax in his place to teach him a lesson. The problem was Lily protected him too well. Not necessary. Lily's voice was flat cold. Jax doesn't need to lift a finger for my business. I promised him he could live off my success, and I won't use him as a bargaining chip. He is the man I love, not a tool. Her eyes, cold as slate, locked with Quinn's. You want to play, Quinn? I'm always ready. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. She reached out, her fingers lacing with Jax's. Lily had never really known how to love someone, but she damn well knew how to protect them. To protect his dignity. To protect everything about him. Jax's scalp tingled. He had to admit, since his rebirth, he had lived entirely under the shield of Lily's power. He'd ridden her coattails, used her assets and his knowledge of the future to score a few minor victories. But none of that was his own strength. His true strength had no limits. He wasn't just some college kid who'd had a few lessons from his girlfriend. He had learned about firearms in his past life out of a desperate need to escape Moonshadow Estate. That knowledge, that fear-driven skill, wasn't just for show. Lily was always fighting for him. This time, he wouldn't be the accessory, the dead weight by her side. Lily, he said, his voice firm and clear. I'm in. A wave of stifled snickers and whispers rippled through the room. No one dared laugh openly, but the sentiment was clear. Look at this idiot, doesn't know his place. Lily was also taken aback. She squeezed his hand, her grip tightening. Jax, are you sure? She didn't crush his spirit, but she knew the truth. This was her world. For a normal college student, it was a glittering paradise that hit a shark tank. Could he really handle it? Lily, life is about trying new things, right? He met her gaze, a dangerous light in his own eyes. Besides, I'm not as easy a target as they think. His skills came from her, and her skills were the stuff of nightmares. A new voice scoffed. Jax, I'll admit I've come around on you, but this is way out of your league. Leo Astor rolled in, pushed in his wheelchair by an attendant. His bones were still healing, but his protective instincts were as sharp as ever. The moment he heard Quinn had summoned his sister to the compound, he knew she was up to no good. The Astors and the Vanderbilts were old allies and older rivals. Usually, his sister could handle Quinn, but with Quinn targeting Jax, it was a clear attempt to exploit a perceived weakness. Leo couldn't stand for it. Even in a wheelchair, he had to come and stop his brother-in-law from dragging his sister down. Well, look what the cat dragged in. What happened to you, little Leo? Quinn chuckled, her fingers tracing a line down Henry's arm. Henry flinched, then grimly noted in his book, one touch on the arm, $30,000. Quinn found his earnest bookkeeping adorable and pinched his cheek. Write it down, baby. Write it all down. All I have is my beauty and my money. Anyway, she was a different kind of predator from Lily. Lily was a frozen, terrifying storm. Quinn was a smiling tiger, all charm on the surface while she plotted your demise. In New York's elite circles, they were known as the Tycoon Terrors. Leo, are you looking for trouble? Lily shot her brother a look, the killing intent in her eyes all too familiar to him. But he couldn't back down. Not when his sister's reputation was on the line because of this. This weakling. Lily, he's a regular college student. He can't handle this. I've been training overseas. I've got shooting experience. Let me do it. It's better than leaving the decision to a total rookie. That's what everyone was thinking. Jax was a guaranteed loss. He looked fit, but the recoil from a real firearm would probably make him piss his pants. Leo, Jax's voice was a low growl. Do you really think I'm a pushover? He moved. In a blur of motion, a massive black desert eagle appeared in his hand. The muzzle of the truth was pressed flush against Leo's forehead. Leo froze. Wait, since when do normal college students carry a hand cannon around? This brother-in-law of mine is unhinged. A cold glint appeared in Leo's eyes. Everything Astor belonged to the Astors. Jax, bro, let's be calm. Leo stammered, his eyes wide. He was more shocked that Lily would allow Jax to carry such a weapon. Did this mean she was truly giving an outsider this much power? Don't be so hasty, Jax mused, his voice dangerously soft. Leo clearly cares about his sister. He wants to contribute to the competition, right? I think the live target range is looking a little sparse. Why don't you volunteer? My aim isn't great. A slow-moving target like you would be perfect for a warm-up. Leo went pale. He looked pleadingly at Lily, ready to grab her leg and beg. But before he could move, Jax cocked the hammer of the gun. The slick, metallic click echoed in the silence. He knows how to use that thing. That wasn't his first time. Stay in your chair, Jax commanded, his voice raw with possessiveness. Lily's leg is not for you to touch. Everything about her is mine to touch. Mine to cherish. Leo stared, dumbfounded. Okay, wow. The Lily Astor crazy has really rubbed off on you, hasn't it? Is this what they mean by you become who you sleep with? Leo felt his status in the family plummeting, and his sister was just letting it happen, showering Jax with indulgent affection. No wonder the world was turning upside down. But he had to admit, this Jax was a world away from the one he'd known. He was harder, colder, with a shadow of Lily in his eyes. Still, there could only be one Lily Astor. Even Quinn Vanderbilt couldn't compare. Otherwise, she wouldn't have to resort to such a clumsy scheme to find a weakness in his sister. Leo, did you not hear your brother-in-law? Lily's ruby lips parted, her eyes carrying that terrifying glint Leo knew all too well. Fine, fine. Gang up on me, why don't you? Be the target then, he thought sullenly. Besides, unless Jax was a truly terrible shot and a stray bullet hit him, Quinn's boy toy wouldn't dare lay a finger on him. The name Leo Astor still carried weight. He was only a coward in front of his sister and her new, terrifying husband. Whatever my brother-in-law says, of course I'll obey, Leo said, covering his face. This was not how he'd pictured his day going. TSK, young Master Astor certainly likes to live dangerously, Quinn drawled. Let's go. We'll start with a simple shooting game. 10 live targets. I'll place different sized fruits on their heads. Hitting the fruit is 1 point. 10 points available per person in the first round. Of course, she added with a wicked smile. If you hit the person, you lose 2 points. So, Mr. Pierce, care to give a try? The other high rollers, who had been watching the drama unfold, began to gather around, though they all gave Lily a wide berth. After what happened to the last person who crossed her, everyone knew to be careful. More importantly, they realized Lily was using this to establish Jax's authority. And Quinn, by making Jax her pawn, was showing everyone just how fearless or foolish she was. I said I'm in, Jax stated, his voice steady. I won't back down. He turned to Lily, his expression softening. Do you trust me, Lily? He wasn't blindly confident. Lily had been training him for days in the professional shooting range at Moonshadow Estate, and he discovered he had a knack for it. He learned everything fast. Now it was time to test that talent. I do, she said, her voice a low murmur only he could hear. My Jax is the best. In every way. The sheer adoration in her voice made Quinn want to gag. Lily, you never used to be like this. You're so, sappy. Annoyed, Quinn glanced at her own underperforming asset, Henry. She grabbed him by the collar, yanked him down, and crushed her lips against his in a fierce, domineering kiss. It was anything but gentle, but she was so beautiful, so fiery, that the other men in the room watched with undisguised envy. See? I have one too, Quinn declared, not to be outdone. The moment she released him, Henry, face rigid, announced in a trembling voice, $200,000. You use tongue. That's crossing a line. Henry had no affection for this arrogant lioness of a woman, but he couldn't deny she paid well. His father's illness was a bottomless pit of expenses, so for now, he would be whatever toy she wanted him to be. Besides, Quinn was notoriously fickle with her boy toys. He figured he'd be replaced soon enough. Might as well cash in while he was the flavor of the month. Quinn's face twitched, a silent curse on her lips. Fine, fine. Write down. It's just money. As long as you make Big Sister happy. I'll give you anything you want, baby. She winked, her beauty a weapon she wielded with effortless skill. Out on the range, the 10 live targets were brought out. They were the kidnappers who had tried to abduct him, their faces familiar and pathetic. They were blindfolded, with various fruits balanced on their heads. Jax spotted a familiar face, the man who had smashed his ring. Weasel. But strangely, there was nothing on his head. Jax voiced his confusion. Ah, the master has a good eye, one of the attendants said with a grim smile. He destroyed the pink diamond ring you bought from Ms. Astor. So, on his head, is a single sesame seed. Lily, Jax thought, is a true demon, and he loved her for it. Mr. Henry, you first, Jax offered, taking his position at the shooting station alongside Henry. The spectators leaned in, their curiosity piqued. This is getting interesting. Lily Astor must be blinded by lust. I heard this new husband is just an ordinary college student. So what if he's smart? Who here isn't an elite? She's wasting that beautiful face of hers. Careful, man. You can't say that. When has Lily Astor ever made a mistake? Maybe there's more to this Jax than meets the eye. Now, what's the rush? Quinn set up this whole circus for one reason. To see if the man Lily treasures like the crown jewels is a diamond or a dud. Jax had never appeared in Lily's circle before. The curiosity and the doubt surrounding him were at their peak. For too long, they had looked up at the flawless, untouchable, and brutal Lily Astor. They were desperate to find her weakness. And to them, Jax was that weakness. If he lost, she would no longer be a goddess on a pedestal. Jax felt a flicker of nerves. Lily, however, was completely unconcerned. Just do what I taught you, Jax. Whatever the outcome, she could handle it. Jax, showing a bit of decorum, allowed Henry to go first. As an ex-Delta Force operator, Henry didn't bother with false modesty. He raised his pistol, squeezed the trigger, and a bullet tore through the air, neatly piercing an apple on a target's head. He had deliberately chosen the apple, even though there was a much larger watermelon target available. It was a provocation, a casual display of superiority meant to crush Jax's morale. Jax's turn. There were only 10 targets. Henry had already seized the advantage. Trying to outshine me is a fool's game, Jax thought. I just need to be steady. He didn't rise to the bait. He calmly raised his pistol, took aim at the man with the massive watermelon on his head, and imagined it was Cornelius Astor's sneering face. Bang! A gunshot cracked through the air. A collective gasp went through the crowd. A miss. Quinn, who had been languidly fanning herself with a silk fan, couldn't help but chuckle. Well, Lily's new pet is certainly cute. At least he's got the looks. She was relishing his failure, feeling no shame at having pitted a professional against a novice. Jax is very handsome, Lily said calmly, her voice unwavering. And that was an excellent shot, in my opinion. The watermelon moved. Live targets are unpredictable. The person can flinch. That's an advanced challenge for him. I approve of that shot. You could do even better, Jax. Missing his first shot, the one meant to build his confidence, should have been a blow. Jax had expected disappointment from Lily, if not blame. But her mental fortitude was unshakable. She didn't care about anyone else's judgment. She only cared about his feelings, his progress. Her faith in him made him even more determined not to let her down. Lily, I can hit it, he said, knowing the words sounded hollow without a point on the board. Another shot rang out. Henry had already fired again, this time hitting a small green jujube with the same clean precision. The gap between the pro and the novice seemed immense. Jax raised his pistol again. This time he ignored the watermelon target, who was clearly going to keep twitching. He chose a target with a pair, who seemed to be tied more securely. As he aimed, his slightly off-center shot drew a mocking comment. Mr. Pierce, maybe you should stick to the watermelon. Henry called out, a smirk in his voice. Mr. Pierce, what is Ms. Está seeing you? Maybe you could teach me your secrets, so I could better serve Ms. Vanderbilt. Henry, for all his stoic posturing, had the same streak of cruelty that had attracted Quinn. He looked down on Jax, which was really a way of expressing his self-loathing for selling himself to Quinn. Jax's mind was sharp. He saw it instantly. We're not the same, he retorted, his voice low but clear. Lily and I are husband and wife. We're a team. You're just a high-priced escort, selling your body and soul. I have no respect for that. The words, spoken by Jax the devoted husband, struck a nerve in Henry's already conflicted heart. In the next moment, Jax fired his second shot. Bang, splat. The pair exploded, showering the target's head. This time, the crowd's eyes went wide. Wait, what? He actually has some skill. Jax, you actually hit it. Henry was stunned. Just moments ago, Jax's stance was that of a complete beginner. To improve that fast, it was like he was cramming for an exam. The man Lily Astor chooses is bound to have something special, Quinn murmured, her expression hardening slightly. But a flicker of appreciation crossed her face. For someone in her position, winning or losing this game was trivial. It was about probing Lily's defenses. But now, she was starting to feel like she was watching a power couple in the making. That was a hell of a shot, Quinn said with a slow, dangerous smile. A strong one. No wonder he managed to tame you. Lily's expression didn't change. You'd better be talking about the G-rated version of taming. 1 point for Ms. Astor, the scorekeeper announced. The word sent a surge of adrenaline through Jax. This was it. This was the point of his efforts. To have his achievements tied to her name. To be her glory, not her burden. TSK. You got lucky, Henry sneered, his shock turning to resentment. Let's see if that luck holds. In his experience, Jax was raw talent. But right now, that talent was standing in his way, and he wouldn't allow it. He dismissed Jax's success as a fluke. Jax paid him no mind. Only the weak and insecure were swayed by words. And after the life he'd lived, Jax's resolve was as steady as a rock. Bang! Henry fired again. This time, as if to prove his superiority and play it safe, he aimed for the watermelon. And unexpectedly, he missed. The target, seeing the gun aimed at him, flinched at the last second. The bullet whizzed past the massive fruit. Such a huge target. Missed. Quinn's face soured. Lily, however, took a slow, deliberate sip of her red wine, the picture of grace. See, she said, her voice dripping with amusement. My Jax has a steady hand. Your boy toy, on the other hand, seems a little off target. The double entendre was unmistakable, and Quinn could only fume in silence. Jax knew he had gotten into Henry's head, but Henry was a professional. He wouldn't make the same mistake twice. Soon, Jax found his rhythm. He was a fast learner, and with Lily's one-on-one instruction, he was unstoppable once he got going. Still, he was 1 point behind Henry. It all came down to the final shot. Ms. Astor, 4 points. Ms. Vanderbilt, 5 points. The final shot will decide the first round. Jax raised his pistol, his eyes locking onto the live target with the single sesame seed perched on his spiky, bleached blonde hair. Weasel. Bang. A single shot cracked the air, followed by a piercing shriek from the target. The man with the sesame seed on his head was Weasel, Spike's second in command. His only distinguishing feature was a head of spiky, gelled yellow hair, a perfect example of the cringy, punk aesthetic. Help me. Help me. Weasel screamed, sobbing like a monkey. He'd already pissed his pants, losing what little dignity he had left. The crowd stared. A perfect hole had been punched through the very top of his spiky hairdo, leaving a crater in the center of the gelled mess. It was in its own way a bold new look. Jax's aim had been so precise that it had cleanly taken the sesame seed without so much as grazing Weasel's scalp. If the man had been bald, he'd have lost a layer of skin, maybe even a chunk of his brain. Weasel felt a hot flash as something zipped past his scalp, the sheer speed of it making him thrash and scream. Holy shit, Jax actually did it. He hit the goddamn sesame seed. Is there a newbie protection buff in real life? His stance was all wrong at the start, and now he's pulling off moves like a master assassin. Damn, did he learn marksmanship through osmosis? That last shot, that perfect blend of power and precision. It was just like watching Lily. I can't even. A total rookie just wiped the floor with everyone. The so-called professional Quinn brought in looks like a joke. Who the hell thought Jax was Lily's weakness? It feels more like he's not her weakness at all. He's her sharpest goddamn blade. The onlookers felt a new, more tangible sense of Lily's terrifying power. Even the seemingly useless boy toy she'd picked up was more than he appeared. Lily Astor was an absolute force, and there was no finding a crack in her armor. Jax lowered the gun, the sharp, predatory glint in his eyes slowly fading. He trampled on the ring I gave Lily. He deserved it. Henry stared at Jax in disbelief. He had completely underestimated the man Lily Astor had chosen. And really, how could any man who caught her be ordinary? Don't get cocky, Jax. This is just the first round. Henry grumbled, his eyes scanning Jax, trying to size him up. But Jax's demeanor, while more composed now, was still that of a typical college sophomore. Quinn's expression had also turned cold. Was she truly fated to lose to Lily in every aspect of life? They were friends, but also rivals, and in a competition, she never backed down. Yet, almost every single time, Lily won. Now, even in her choice of men, Lily had left her in the dust. The only chink in Lily's armor seemed to be that rumored Astor family curse, that no woman in her line lived past 25. Everything else, she dominated. Oh, really? Jax shot back, his tone dripping with sarcasm. You can't even get cocky after the first round, and you're already thinking about a comeback? You are, sore. Loser. The polite, peace-loving Jax from his past life was dead. He died once already. He was going to be as arrogant as he damn well pleased. You're too much. You're just a rookie. Henry snapped, his face darkening. In truth, he only dared to trade insults with Jax. Even with Quinn backing him, he wouldn't dare provoke the psycho Lily Astor. Yeah, and you, a professional, couldn't even beat a rookie like me. Jax taunted, drawing a finger across his own cheek in a childish, mocking gesture. Shame on you. Henry fumed. You're a real piece of work? You know that? Jax didn't care. Quinn raised an eyebrow, a slight smile playing on her lips as she watched Henry's flustered reaction. Henry, don't be a sore loser. Her tone was gracious. A loss was a loss. A win was a win. She'd spent years playing games with Lily, often just feeding her experience points and equipment. She enjoyed it, even if it meant losing a business deal and getting chewed out by the old men on her board. She always paid her debts with a smile. It was this very eagerness to lose to Lily that had started rumors in New York society. They said Quinn wasn't just losing on purpose. She was trying to curry favor with Lily Astor. The rumors, of course, never reached Quinn's ears. But Henry had heard them, and seeing the way Quinn was almost defending Lily despite being on opposite sides, and considering how much she supposedly doted on him, it didn't add up. A strange look crossed Henry's face as he looked at Jax. A look of sympathy. Jax caught it. What the hell, man? All right, I lost. Henry conceded through gritted teeth. But you didn't win either, Jax. The first round was fixed targets. For the second round, let's up the difficulty. Triple the distance. 300 meters, free roaming targets. How about that? He pressed on. Jax, you may be a rookie, but your skills are shocking. Since you're so good with stationary targets, moving one should be no problem. I happen to have a few interesting live targets available. As long as we don't threaten their lives, I'm sure Mr. Pierce can still shoot with precision. If we're going to play, let's make it exciting. Quinn waved a hand, and the stationary targets were removed. The blindfolded kidnappers were herded to a fenced-off area 300 meters away. They were the expected targets. But then Leo was shoved out with them, looking utterly bewildered. What the? You actually dare to tie me up? Lily Astor is my sister. How dare you? How dare? Stop. Jax, save me. Leo, ever the pragmatist, immediately switched to survival mode. He was unceremoniously bundled into the target zone and forced into a special padded suit. The bullets wouldn't penetrate, but damn, it would hurt. And the fear of getting shot was very, very real. Soon, another familiar figure was thrown into the enclosure. Leo shuffled closer, squinting at the masked woman. Holy crap. Chloe Vance? Chloe, how did you get nabbed? Guards. Guards. This woman is a cheap, promiscuous slut. How can she be in the same target zone as me? We are not on the same level. Lily rubbed her temples. So noisy. Gag him, she ordered. As for Chloe Vance, a live target needs a distinct feature to aim at. How about we shave her head? It'll make it easier for Jax to get a clear shot. Lily hadn't expected Quinn to find Chloe and drag her here. It was a clear psychological play, meant to rattle Jax. After all, in everyone's eyes, Chloe was his one true love. With her in the line of fire, his focus would surely be shattered. Quinn was playing mind games. Too bad for her. Lily had no particular desire to torture Chloe to death at the moment. Her focus was, and always had been, on controlling Jax's heart. Her rival was never another woman. It was Jax's devotion, and she would not tolerate it straying. Of course, Jax said, his tone crisp and dismissive. Whatever Lily wants. His casual attitude made Quinn, who had orchestrated this whole mental attack, feel like a fool. But this wasn't her last card. Bring out the next one, Quinn commanded, her voice dangerously calm. Jax looked up. His fifth sister, Sierra Pierce, was shoved into the target area, also wearing the padded suit. Jax! Jax! Don't worry about me, she called out, her voice trembling. I'm doing this for you. It's all voluntary. Just shoot. Don't think of me as your sister. To be able to do this for you is an honor. Jax sighed. He hadn't thought of her as his sister for a long time, but her persistence was starting to get on his nerves. Quinn, seeing a flicker of annoyance on Jax's face, thought she had found his breaking point. She smiled triumphantly and waved for another target. Morgan! Sierra gasped. It was the first time she had seen her eldest sister since Jax's kidnapping. Morgan looked terrible. When she saw Jax standing at the main shooting platform, Her gaze instinctively dropped in guilt. Morgan Pierce looked haggard. Her career was in ruins. A leak of confidential information had buried Pierce financial under a mountain of breach of contract penalties, and new clients were impossible to find. Her reputation was destroyed. No respectable firm would touch her. Her old partners had pulled their funding and run for the hills. The company she had built was a hollowed-out shell. Her professional life was over, and her family life wasn't much better. She had been hiding, avoiding contact with everyone since that fateful day she'd failed to make the call. She had sealed herself off, terrified that the next piece of news she heard would be of Sierra's and Jax's deaths. She admitted to herself that a part of her had wanted Jax to suffer a little more, a petty act of revenge for him, ruining her life. But when she truly thought about it, she knew the ruin was her own making. Jax had given her a choice, her reputation or the company her father had entrusted to her. She had chosen to sacrifice herself to save Pierce Financial. She had poured her life into that company. It was her battlefield, her kingdom. And then her mother had casually revealed that it was all just temporary. She was merely managing it for Caleb. By the time she realized her mistake, it was too late. Now, looking at Jax's cold, distant expression, she felt the tears welling up. But she couldn't cry. She had to maintain her dignity as the eldest sister. She couldn't be a burden to him now, not after everything. She had already betrayed him too many times. Sierra, listen to me. I didn't call the police, it's true, but it was because... Crack. Morgan wanted to explain, to say she was afraid Jax would revert to his old, worthless self, that she just wanted him to learn a harder lesson. She knew the excuses were flimsy, that Sierra would never believe them. Sierra had trusted her with both their lives. And in a moment of weakness, she had betrayed not just Jax, but her own sister. How could she be such a terrible person? The guilt was a physical pain, tearing at her chest. Before she could recover from the self-loathing, Sierra's hand, filled with a righteous fury, struck her across the face. The sound was sharp, final. Morgan Pierce, do you even deserve to be called a sister? Sierra spat, her voice thick with hatred. You were always so high and mighty, thinking you could control all of us. You were so strict with Jax, punishing him with such cruelty, and he never held against you. But this Morgan, his life was on the line, and in a matter of life and death, you just looked the other way. I don't have a sister like you, and if Jax's aim slips today and he takes you out, I won't even bury you. You're a heartless monster. Sierra couldn't believe it. She had imagined 1,000 different reasons for what happened. After her rescue, she had desperately tried to find Morgan, worried for her safety. But the truth was this. Her own sister had stabbed them in the back. The pain was like a knife twisting in her heart. I'm sorry, Morgan whispered, her voice breaking. I'm sorry, Sierra, and I'm sorry, Jax. If you want my life today, I won't complain. She had nothing left to lose, anyway. The name Morgan Pierce was already synonymous with shame. Jax watched the predictable drama unfold with a placid heart. The only thing that surprised him was that Quinn had managed to drag both Sierra and Morgan here to be live targets. It was a shame, really. Why couldn't she have brought the old, sharp-tongued matriarch of the Pierce family instead? Now, that would have been a show. Mr. Pierce, are you satisfied with the targets I prepared for you? Quinn's voice was laced with amusement. I heard they weren't exactly kind to you back at the Pierce household. This is the perfect opportunity for revenge. Of course, we encourage civilized sport. They're all wearing protective gear and are here voluntarily. You wouldn't go easy on them, would you? Quinn's smile was pure venom. She didn't know Jax well enough. Bringing Chloe here was simply a favor to Lily, a chance for the Heiress to see her rival tormented by proxy. See, Lily? I'm such a good friend. The world may have abandoned you, but you still have me. You're mistaken, Ms. Vanderbilt, Jax said coolly. I have no connection to them. They're strangers. Why would I go easy on them? His voice was calm, but his message was clear. Neither Chloe Vance nor his two sisters registered as more than a blip on his radar. The only person in that target zone who mildly annoyed him was Leo, and that was just because he was so loud. His words probably didn't carry the 300 meters to Sierra and Morgan, but Quinn had made sure to ask her question loudly. From his indifferent posture, they could see the truth. He no longer considered them family. It was what they expected, yet the reality of it still struck them with the force of a physical blow. My heart has room for only one person, Jax declared, turning the tables on Quinn. And that's Lily. Don't try to stir up trouble where there is none. During the setup time, he walked over to Lily, who was swirling a glass of red wine. It was broad daylight, and she really shouldn't be drinking, but a small glass was fine. He saw she'd barely touched it. He reached out, his tall frame casting a shadow over her, and gently tucked a stray strand of her dark red hair behind her ear. Lily, he murmured, his voice a soft, intimate caress. You're the only one who can get under my skin like this. His deep voice was mesmerizing. Lily's eyes narrowed in pleasure. This Jax, so deliberately affectionate, so cute and arrogantly alluring, was driving her crazy. She was losing control. Jax leaned in, their faces inches apart, his expression practically screaming. See, Lily? No one else even exists to me. Praise me. Lily was utterly captivated. The wine glass trembled in her hand. In the next moment, Jax smoothly took it from her and leaned even closer, nuzzling his nose against her cheek like a small animal. Lily's mind went blank. Jax! Jax! He's so good, so sweet. I just want to devour him whole. Was this really the same little deserter who had once resisted her so fiercely? She was completely melted by his affectionate gesture. If he asked her to level the entire compound right now, she would do it without blinking. Jax, I want more hugs, she finished, her voice a needy whisper. The scent of him, the scent that drove her wild, was all around her, and she couldn't suppress her feelings any longer. She just wanted to express her love. Quinn watched the scene, dumbfounded. Lily Astor, the ruthless, decisive queen of the business world, was snuggling into Jax's arms like a soft, gentle kitten. Seriously, girl? Have some self-respect. Be good, Lily, Jax soothed. Wait for me to bring home the win for you. My Lily only gets the best, and what I give you will always be the best. He couldn't resist running his fingers through her soft hair again, planting a soft kiss on her forehead. Okay, Jax is the best, the very best, Lily cooed. She had an iron will, but the alcohol tolerance of a lightweight. A few sips when she was in a good mood were enough to send her over the edge. She tilted her head back, a faint pink blush on her cheeks, looking so soft and pliant that Jax felt his own heart melt. Without another thought, she threw her arms around his neck and planted a loud, sloppy kiss on his cheek. Mwah! The sound echoed in the now silent room. Everyone held their breath. Quinn felt her soul take another direct hit. Hubby, Lily loves you, the great Ms. Astor slurred, turning into a pliant little rabbit, wanting to meld her entire being with his. I love you too, Jack stammered, a rare blush creeping up his neck. His earlier confidence had evaporated, replaced by an endearing shyness. He quickly set the wine glass far away. Lily couldn't have another drop. Otherwise, tonight would be. His ears burned. He had to get himself under control. He shot Nathan a look that clearly said, "Take care of my wife." Nathan's face morphed into a meme of pure panic. Me? You think a sober Lily is bad? Have you met a drunk one? But whether he wanted the job or not, Jax had already turned and strode back to the shooting platform. The crowd buzzed with anticipation. This Jax was getting more interesting by the minute. The rules for the second round are simple, the announcer's voice boomed. Each live target is wearing a back-mounted target. The difficulty is increased by their random movements. There is no limit on the number of shots. You have a set time to hit the targets on all 13 people. Each target has rings, which represent points. Hitting the person is only 1 point, the lowest score. A bullseye is 5 points. A pause. The choice of firearm is up to you. But be warned, some guns have hidden bonuses that can grant extra points if triggered. This was their version of a competitive sport, just played in a gray area with much looser rules. Lily and Quinn had already toned down the brutality out of consideration for Jax's civilian status. But Quinn always liked to stir the pot. Jax understood immediately. Quinn had seen his natural talent for shooting and knew he might just beat Henry again. So if she couldn't beat him at shooting, she'd beat him with the equipment. In an area where he was a total amateur, he was guaranteed to lose. He walked up to the row of firearms and bypassed all the sleek, advanced-looking weapons. He stopped in front of a battered, ordinary-looking M16. It was old and looked like it might even misfire. But Jax picked it up without hesitation. A rifle was the right choice for the increased distance. But could he handle it? Henry watched him, a complex, assessing look in his eyes. Is this kid really a novice with firearms? Henry swallowed hard and also chose a rifle. Even though he was a retired Special Forces operator, rifles weren't his strongest suit. He was more of a close-quarters combat specialist. He was better than any civilian, of course, but for some reason, the more he looked at Jax, the less he looked like a normal college student. All right, let's begin, Jax said. He raised the M16, his movements still looking somewhat unpracticed. But this time, no one dared to laugh. The man looked like a max-level god pretending to be a newbie just for kicks. No one was going to make that mistake again. Only Jax knew the truth. He really wasn't familiar with the weapon. Lily had set up a range for him at Moonshadow Estate, but they hadn't gotten to rifles yet. He'd only chosen the M16 because, while he'd never held one in real life, He'd use it 1,000 times in video games. He'd just have to treat this like the world's most realistic VR simulation. He shouldered the rifle and began to lock onto a target. Leo, who had been loudly complaining about sharing a target zone with Chloe Vance, went completely silent the moment the game started. He was terrified. Are you people insane? You're letting a rookie use us for target practice? I'm Leo Astor, for God's sake. The moment Jax raised his rifle, Leo lost all composure. Don't shoot. Jax, my dear brother-in-law. If you have to shoot, please aim carefully. I'm not ready to die. Leo's shrieking set off the other targets. They were already skittish, and now they started scattering and dodging within their enclosure, making the whole exercise significantly harder. Quinn's people had also cleverly divided the target zone. The weaker, slower targets who were still shell-shocked from the first round were on Henry's side. For a professional like him, it was a turkey shoot. On the other side, bang! Henry glanced over at the chaos in Jax's zone and smirked before firing. A bullseye for Ms. Vanderbilt. 8 rings. That's 4 points. Henry was off to a strong start. An 8-ring shot on a moving target was no small feat. As Quinn's champion, he was already re-establishing his dominance. The sight annoyed Jax. His annoyance grew as he watched Leo, still hopping around and screaming like a madman. Jax decisively pulled the bolt, chambered around, aimed in Leo's general direction, and fired. Hey, I'm gonna die. Leo felt the impact on his padded suit and shrieked, preparing to collapse dramatically. But a moment later, a cry, even more excited than his own, came from the scoring table. Ms. Astor, 10 rings. Bullseye. That's 5 points. Jax blinked. The whole crowd fell silent. What? Henry stared. Are you kidding me? Did I hear that right? That was a moving target, a wildly unpredictable one. Not even the legendary mercenary king could guarantee a bullseye on a moving target from that distance. Jax, what kind of deal did you make with the devil? My pleasure, Jax said with a slight grin. He wasn't sure how he did it, but the moment he hit that first bullseye, the rifle felt different in his hands. It felt familiar, as if he had trained with it for 1,000 lifetimes. As if holding a gun was as natural to him as using chopsticks, which was impossible. He couldn't have this kind of talent, but he shrugged it off. As long as he was making Lily proud, that's all that mattered. The young man's brilliant, confident smile was dazzling. Yeah, save me. I've never seen a man smile be so handsome. As expected of Lily Astor's choice. An Astor-approved selection, you deserve it. Hey look, Henry's face is green with envy. Looks like he's about to get dumped by our Ms. Vanderbilt. I can't believe it. Jax hit Leo even while he was jumping around like that. That's some fateful aim. I'm kind of shipping it. Hilarious. If you love shipping so much, go home and ship your ancestors. That shot shattered everyone's remaining doubts. But there was still the possibility of it being a fluke. The high rollers had already started a betting pool on the side. A few million was just pocket change to them. Nathan quietly slipped into the crowd. 300,000. On my master Jax to win. He was just going to watch, but he saw that while everyone was praising Jax, they were all betting on Henry. They still believed Jax was a nobody who got lucky. They couldn't accept that a normal college student could beat a retired Special Forces pro. Nathan couldn't stand it. He put down a chunk of his annual bonus to back his master. He knew if Lily was letting this happen, she had a reason. He didn't know why, but he trusted her judgment completely. You're throwing your money away, Nathan. One of the men chuckled. We all know what Henry is. Jax got lucky once. You think that luck will hold? I'll take that 300,000 off your hands. Thank you very much. Nathan's normally stern face grew even darker. 500,000, he declared. I believe in my master. His stance was the stance of Moonshadow Estate. He used to have his doubts about Jax, but now he saw it clearly. The master was fighting for Miss Astor's honor. He was fighting because he was deeply, ridiculously in love. Nathan couldn't let his master lose face. 30 million. I'm betting on Jax. A lazy, feminine voice cut through the crowd. The boy is quite handsome. The crowd parted automatically. When they saw who it was, their jaws dropped. Quinn Vanderbilt strolled through the crowd, her every step an exercise in languid, deadly grace. Where Lily was a freezing storm that could annihilate you, Quinn was a coiled viper, her tongue constantly flicking, leaving you guessing when she would strike. And now, despite being on the opposing team, she had just placed a massive bet on Jax. No one could figure out her angle, but if they could, she wouldn't be Quinn Vanderbilt. Whoa, the opposition just bet on Jax to win. So she really is just treating Henry like a toy. I heard Henry was only chosen because he looks like that guy, the one who tamed Quinn and then dumped her. Whoever that man is, he must be someone incredible to still be alive. I'm starting to feel bad for Henry. He loses whether he wins or loses. The betting pool drama didn't affect the shooters. Up on the observation deck, Lily was leisurely swirling her wine glass again, looking utterly delighted. Nathan rubbed his forehead. Master Jax, I can't control her. She only listens to you. Bang! Another shot cracked the air. It was Henry. One of the targets on his side had frozen in fear, making for an easy, stationary shot. It was a clear advantage, quietly arranged by some of Henry's old cronies in the compound. In this world, the strong ruled, and Henry was one of them. They couldn't let some college kid show up their entire mercenary camp. Captain Henry is amazing. Ms. Vanderbilt, 10 rings. 5 points. The tide began to turn. Most people still harbored doubts about Jax's abilities, and this shot from Henry seemed to confirm their bias. But a few sharp-eyed spectators noticed the discrepancy. Jax was hitting a wildly moving target, while Henry was essentially shooting at a fixed one. The two big sisters on the deck seemed unbothered, however. They knew this world was like the boardroom. There was no such thing as absolute fairness. Lily saw it too. She glanced at Jax, saw no frustration or defeat in his expression, and a flicker of admiration warmed her eyes. He was learning. But just because Jax didn't care didn't mean others wouldn't. Sam Cole, who had been brought along by the celebrity Isabelle Croft at Lily's request, couldn't stay silent. What the hell, you guys? How can you be so unfair? My boy Jax isn't complaining about you cheating, but that doesn't mean I won't, he yelled. Ms. Astor, you love Jax the most. You be the judge. That shot was shameless. Why does Jax get the hyperactive targets while his are half dead? It's not fair. Sam knew he was playing with fire, but he'd seen Jax face too much injustice. He'd seen how it had made Jax numb to it, accepting it as normal. And that wasn't right. He was making a scene, so Jax would remember that he deserved to be treated fairly. Well, who's this little lost lamb? Quinn looked up, a lazy, amused smile on her face. He's a cute one. Sir, Henry said, his voice dripping with disdain. The rules never stated the targets had to be moving to count. Stop making a scene. If your boy Jax is as good as you think, he should be able to hit a moving target with a bullseye every time. Henry's words were meant to be dismissive, but they struck a nerve with both Sam and Jax. This man had no backbone, no pride. Is that so? Jax's voice was suddenly cold steel. Henry, I've been giving you too much face, and you started to think you're actually someone. Do you think everyone is as blind as you are? Did a donkey kick you in the head as a child? Take a look at yourself. You've got the smug look of a turtle staring at its own reflection. You should get to a hospital and have them check out that brain you bought on Temu for 3 cents. Quinn would have been better off getting drunk and picking up a pig. All talk. You've got the presence of a deflated balloon. Jax's verbal assault was brutal, and he didn't spare Quinn either. But words were meaningless without action. As he finished speaking, he raised his rifle again. Bang! This time, fueled by a surge of righteous anger, Jax's focus was razor sharp. He calmly took aim at Leo, who was still bouncing around like a lunatic 300 meters away, and fired. The shot was clean. Perfect. Holy, Jax! 10 rings, the scorekeeper yelled, forgetting all protocol. That's a bullseye. This wasn't just skill. This was something else. This was the kind of precision that belonged to legends like Titan, the former king of mercenaries. Quinn, who had just been insulted, found herself laughing. Seriously, sister? Where did you find this man? He's something else entirely. Everyone was silent. The scorekeeper, the audience, even Sam Cole. This guy, his insults were top tier, and his marksmanship was beyond belief. Who was spreading rumors that Jax was just a normal college student? What kind of college student dismantles his opponent so thoroughly? If the first bullseye was luck, the second was undeniable proof. Jax was a master marksman. Second round scores, Ms. Astor, 10 points. Ms. Vanderbilt, 9 points, the scorekeeper announced, deciding it was safer to be honest than to get on the wrong side of whatever Jax was. Henry's face cycled through several shades of pale. He looked pleadingly at Quinn, but she didn't even glance his way. For a woman like her, with a world of men at her beck and call, Henry had failed to meet expectations. He was now disposable. Henry felt her coldness and his stomach dropped. But the competition wasn't over. He had to press on. Losing to Jax's skill with a moving target would be humiliating. He gritted his teeth and raised his rifle for a third shot. There was no limit on bullets, only time. Just as Henry was about to fire, Jax turned his own rifle, aiming not at the targets, but in Henry's direction. Henry frowned, confused. He ignored it and took aim at his chosen stationary target. He needed another bullseye. He didn't know that Jax had spotted a loophole in the rules. They never specified you had to shoot the targets in your own zone. Meanwhile, Leo, having survived his bullseye hit thanks to the padded suit, was now a full-blown Jax convert. When he saw Jax aim his rifle away from him, he was genuinely disappointed. He started waving his arms, jumping up and down. Jax, brother-in-law, you're aiming the wrong way. I'm over here. Shoot me. Come on, shoot me. 10 points. Right here for the taking. Leo's bizarre antics drew a fresh wave of awe and laughter from the crowd. Those who had bet on Henry were desperately wishing they could take their money back. Captain Henry was finished. Ms. Astor wasn't just the more powerful of the tycoon terrors. Her taste in men was also vastly superior. Jack saw Leo's frantic display. I have never in my life met someone so eager to be shot. Leo's cheerleading didn't distract him. His aim remained fixed. Henry, ignoring the sideshow, fired. Bang! 2 bullets ripped through the air simultaneously. But Jax's bullet was faster. In a stunning, impossible display, it caught up to Henry's bullet mid-flight. Crack! Jax's bullet shattered Henry's, the force of the impact sending it careening off its original trajectory, straight towards the still-bouncing Leo. Time seemed to slow down. Everyone watched, breathless, as the single bullet flew. What kind of insane maneuver was that? This was more exciting than any shooting competition they had ever seen. Henry's face was ashen. His shot was wasted. But surely Jax's was too. The impact would have ruined his aim. Even if it was heading towards Leo, there was no way it could be a bullseye. The mercenaries, who had initially rooted for Henry, were now unabashedly worshipping Jax. Still, they felt a pang of regret. It was an incredible move, but he'd sacrificed his own shot. He couldn't possibly get a third bullseye now. But then, a gust of wind swept across the range. It was just enough to alter the bullet's path by a fraction of an inch. Thwack! A gasp went through the crowd as they watched Leo get hit by the impact and fall to the ground with a dramatic flare. I can't believe it. Jack shattered Henry's bullet and still got a bullseye on a moving target. That's insane. Only the legendary mercenary king, Titan, was ever that good. Am I even worthy of witnessing this god-tier gameplay? Compared to Jax, Henry looks like a flaccid noodle. This has to be rigged, right? No human being can do that. In the mercenary world, strength was everything. In that moment, Jax had ascended to a level they could only dream of. He had won their respect. Even Jax was surprised. He had only meant to teach Henry a lesson for disrespecting his friend, Sam. The shot had been pure instinct, flowing with an impossible smoothness that felt unreal. But the solid feel of the rifle in his hands was undeniable. Was this talent? Continue, Jax. Lily's voice drifted down from the deck, calm and commanding. You win this, and this entire training compound is yours. My first gift to you, to welcome you to my world. Welcome to the gray world of Lily Astor. A world where humanity is a currency, rules are suggestions, and strength is the only law. She was the queen here. But in the future, Jax, I will be ruled by you. Jax gripped the rifle, a sense of unreality washing over him. But as long as Lily was watching, as long as he had her approval, he could do anything. Lily, he whispered, his voice filled with a new resolve. I'll do my best. I'll keep moving forward until I'm strong enough to stand by your side as an equal. Jax's explosive potential was a shock to everyone, including himself. He'd always been a fast learner, but this was different. After a few lessons from Lily, he wasn't just competent, he was innovating. But was this ability a good thing? Exposing it so publicly, would it become an obstacle on his path to her? It wasn't normal. It was the kind of talent that made you seem like a monster. But then a thought struck him. If he was seen as a freak, a monster to be shunned, wouldn't that just make him more like Lily? The idea sent a thrilling, perverse jolt of happiness through him. The rest of the game was a foregone conclusion. Jax dominated, his victory expected by all. Henry's face grew progressively darker. Sierra and Morgan, used as targets, contributed several bullseyes to Jax's score. Morgan was frozen in fear, an easy stationary target. Chloe Vance had fainted from terror almost immediately and was dragged off the field. And Leo? He became a fish in water, gleefully darting around the field, actively trying to get in Jax's line of fire. He had been thoroughly and utterly won over by his cheap brother-in-law. In the end, Jax was the undisputed champion. Quinn had nothing to say, and the kidnappers were left as trembling, broken messes. The match was over. Lily Astor remained on her throne. Henry, his face a mask of humiliation, stormed off without a word. Normally, Quinn might have deigned to soothe his bruised ego, but today she simply watched him go, a serene smile on her face as she played with a string of black jade beads. Mr. Pierce, she purred. I never knew you were so formidable. You've certainly made an impression. Oomph. My Jax was always formidable. Lily slurred slightly, her cheeks flushed from the wine she'd been sipping in her excitement. And with my training, he's even more so. She fixed Jax with a hungry gaze, as if she could devour him on the spot. Oh, my Jax, is it now? Quinn teased. Honestly, little Lily, you're the classic case of chicks before dicks in reverse. How long has it been since you came to the Vanderbilt estate to spar? You spend all your time on this man. Thankfully, he's worth it. Enjoy him. With a flourish, she produced a folder. Here are the contracts for the East River Development Project and the deed for the Rosewood Estate. Already signed. A gift for you, Ms. Astor. Quinn was a graceful loser. Besides, while she'd lost the deal, the $30 million she'd won betting on Jax had softened the blow. Just leave it there, Lily said, dismissing the massive prize with a wave of her hand. It was pocket change to her. Quinn had just wanted to see her lose for once. But Lily didn't care about that. Even if Jax had lost, she would have covered for him. The point of all this was to show Jax the world she lived in and the rules they played by. Quinn let out an exasperated laugh, shot Lily a look that could curdle milk, and swept out of the room, her designer gown trailing behind her like a royal train. You win, little Lily. You always do. Little Lily? Jax thought. The nickname was surprisingly cute. It showed a genuine, deep-seated friendship between the two women. Don't mind her, Lily mumbled, turning her full, drunken attention to him. She's crazy. Good Jax. Lily's drunk. Lily wants a hug. The cold, ruthless Lily Astor was gone. In her place was a pouting, pink-cheeked girl holding her arms out, demanding affection. When Jax didn't move immediately, her face crumpled, and a tiny whimper escaped her lips. Good Jax. I want it. Jax had always prided himself on his self-control, but seeing her like this, like a kitten showing its soft belly, begging to be held. Who could resist that? The crowd of onlookers, who had been staring as if they'd seen a ghost, were all thinking the same thing. For the love of God, hug her. He moved to scoop her up, but she was faster. The moment his hands touched her waist, she launched herself at him, wrapping her legs around his waist and clinging to him like a koala. The move was far more intimate, more possessive than a Princess Carrie. Jax felt his heart dissolve completely. Jax, 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 she chanted into his ear. Lily loves you so much. Jax, I ate a peach today. Guess what kind? Held securely in his arms, Lily was in heaven. She was, at her core, just a young woman who should have been living a carefree life. The coldness was a shield. Now, with him, the little girl who craved affection was finally free. Jax supported her back, his heart overflowing. He played along, mesmerized by her sparkling eyes. What kind? His deep voice vibrated against her ear. She nibbled on his earlobe and gave it a loud, wet kiss. Moi, the kind that tells me I'm doomed, baby, she declared loudly. Doomed to love you forever. They were almost at the door. Jax, his face already covered in faint lipstick marks, was trying to navigate through the parting crowd with some dignity. But Lily's declaration made everyone stare. His ears burned, but he was so full of love for her, this strange, possessive, wonderful woman. He gently stroked her hair. Lily, where do you learn these things? Corny pickup lines were lame, but coming from her, they were the most romantic words he'd ever heard. Humph. Not telling, she giggled, swinging her legs. I have more. My love for you is like a monster truck rally. Loud, crazy, and unstoppable. And why do I even need a heart? It's already checked out and moved in with you. Her sweet, drunken ramblings were a kind of poetry that was rewriting his soul. Lily, stop, he pleaded, his own smile threatening to split his face. He tried to cover her mouth, but she licked his palm, her touch soft and electric. He snatched his hand back as if burned, his entire body flushing hot. Lily, where did you learn that? You. Stop being so fat. She looked at him with wide, innocent eyes, her fingers twisting together, her lower lip trembling as if she were about to burst into tears. Somebody help me, Jax thought desperately. This drunk little monster is going to be the death of me. A sweet, sweet death. Jax stumbled out of the compound, carrying his precious cargo, his face now a canvas of lipstick smears. He finally managed to get Lily into the back of the car. Nathan, I told you to watch her, to make sure she didn't drink too much, he said, trying to sound stern despite the blush on his own ears. He had rarely seen Lily drink. The strong, rational woman he knew had no weaknesses, and alcohol was a weakness. Nathan, who had been by her side longer than he had, should have known better. Master Jax, when she wants to drink, how can I stop her? Nathan sighed. Honestly, a little wine is good for her. It helps her relax. Her mind is always so tense, so logical. But she wasn't born a machine. Too many disappointments, too much despair, had forced her onto that cold, lonely throne. If she hadn't seized that power, the cannibalistic Astor clan would have eaten her alive. Her only mantra in that dark place she'd been thrown into was, survive. She'd once told him that a very important person had taught her those words, and they became her reason for living. In his past life, Jax had known so little about her. This time, though he wanted to understand her heart, it was always Lily taking the lead, showering him with a love he passively accepted. She seemed content with so little, as if a simple nod of acknowledgement from him was enough to fill her world. Her world had always been just him. She never dared to get drunk before because there was no Jax, no shoulder to cry on, no arms to fall into, but now she could, and that, in itself, was a kind of happiness. Meanwhile, back at the compound, Leo, still in his padded suit, watched them drive away. Hey, what about me? I'm still here. I'll take care of her, Jax said, his voice softening. He climbed into the car. The moment he was inside, Lily wrapped herself around him like a vine, her soft body molding against his as she snuggled into his arms. Hubby, Lily's hungry, she murmured. I want to eat. In her long, hard years of training, she had mastered the art of suppressing desire, especially hunger. She could go for days on end, eating dirt to survive. But Jax had introduced her to a world of flavor, of delicious food made just for her, and she had fallen in love with the simple, human joy of it. What do you want to eat, Lily? I'll make it for you. We haven't been to the grocery store in a while. Do you want to go? He didn't want to just go back to Moonshadow Estate and fall into bed with her. He cherished these moments of simple domesticity, like any normal couple, enjoying the mundane tasks of life together. Okay, she chirped, still clinging to him like a baby koala. A high-end import market on the way home was swiftly cleared out for them. When they arrived, the store was populated only by Astor bodyguards pretending to be shoppers. Jax placed Lily in a shopping cart and began to push her through the aisles. What do you want for dinner, Lily? How about some comfort food? Scrambled eggs with tomatoes? Or eggplant with garlic sauce? Maybe some braised ribs? He browsed the aisles, picking up spices and ingredients. The kitchen at the estate had been restocked after the incident, but the chefs used professional-grade stuff. Jax wanted to give Lily a taste of home, of the simple meals he'd grown up with. A wave of nostalgia washed over him as he searched for the brands his adoptive parents used to buy. He missed them. Jax, what are you thinking about? I was just thinking about my family, Lily. I wonder how my parents and sisters are doing. He genuinely wanted to find them, to take care of them. He was grown now, and they were getting older. His sisters were surely struggling out there on their own. He had been powerless before, but not anymore. He wasn't the same Jax, constrained by the Pierce family. He wanted to support his parents, to reunite with his sisters. I know they're not doing badly, Lily said, her voice suddenly serious. I gave them $100 million to buy you from them. Don't think I was being cheap, Jax. I had just taken over Astor Industries. That was all the liquid cash I had at the time. She had used everything she had to buy him from his adoptive family. And then, before she could even collect her purchase, the Pierce family had intercepted him, swooping in and tormenting him while her own power was still new and unstable. Thinking about it, Lily's little fists clenched in anger. Inside a private room at a New York City hospital, Eleanor Pierce lay on the bed. The burns on her body had been treated with a special salve her youngest son had meticulously developed. She was certain it would work, whether it was the Radiance Balm or this burn cream. Eleanor had used Caleb's products before and was confident her skin would heal without a single scar. Madison Pierce, who had come with her mother to the hospital, ignored the incessant calls from her boyfriend, Gavin Holt, silencing each one. She didn't dare tell her mother the truth. The shock that Caleb, the brother she trusted implicitly, had been deceiving her all along, using Jax's stolen formulas to win their affection, would be too much. She wasn't sure her mother could handle it. And then there was the wound itself, where surgeons had already debrided the necrotic flesh. The skin was gone, a raw ruin of what it once was. Even wrapped in bandages, the truth will always come out. Madison couldn't help but picture the courtroom. The image of Lilith Astor fiercely defending Jax burned into her memory. Though Madison had left early, she knew the moment Lilith appeared that Caleb's case was lost. After the burn cream incident, her own faith in Caleb had plummeted. She suspected that Scarlet, her fourth sister, had also been a victim of his schemes for a long time. In a matter of days, the entire Pierce family had been turned upside down. Madison hadn't seen any of it coming. She was too afraid to even look at her phone to find out what had happened to Morgan and Scarlet. She felt like a traumatized child, sealing herself off from the world for safety. But the truth will always come out. Just as Madison was trying to retreat into herself, Eleanor woke up. The anesthesia hadn't fully worn off, and her gaze was hazy as she looked at her second daughter, dozing by her bedside. A wave of relief washed over her. If Madison is here with me, she thought, that must mean Caleb won the lawsuit. Madison, where's your brother Caleb? Which room is he in? I feel much better now. Help me up. I want to go see him. And you, she chided gently. I'm sick, but it's not that serious. I've been using the cream Caleb gave me every day. There probably isn't even a scar by now. You should be with your brother. Just give me a competent nurse. Your brother is so delicate. I can only rest easy if he's being cared for by family. Eleanor's words were a familiar litany, her favoritism for Caleb as strong as ever. She had no idea how dire her own situation was, or that it was all thanks to the son she cherished most. Mom, you should worry about yourself first. Madison opened her eyes, taking a deep breath to suppress the suffocating pressure in her chest. She stood up. The Madison who had always been unconditionally obedient was gone. Her face was a cool mask, her tone icy. Mom, instead of worrying about Caleb, why don't you take a look at what he's done to you, she said sharply. And the lawsuit is over. Professor Damian Roth, Jax's lawyer, has filed charges against every member of our family who testified. Even though you're sick now, you'll face detention after you're discharged. Caleb made an unforgivable mistake, but the joke is that he, the one who started it all, will only be detained for half a month, while Scarlett. In any case, don't even think about protecting him this time. He might be your precious son, but when you do something wrong, you have to learn your lesson. Madison's words were blunt, a harsh reminder of Eleanor's own condition. But the anesthesia was still working. Eleanor looked down and saw only bandages. She had used Caleb's cream so many times, it couldn't possibly be a problem. The thought that her wounds might never heal didn't even cross her mind. Madison, what are you talking about? Caleb is your brother. You've always doted on him. Eleanor's eyes widened in disbelief as she tried to reason with her daughter. Madison's expression remained flat. Jax is my brother too, and when has he ever made a mistake without facing the harshest punishment? So why should Caleb be the exception? Eleanor stared at her, her eyes growing wider as if she no longer recognized the young woman standing before her as her own daughter. Mom, you can lift the bandage a little, Madison said, her voice devoid of emotion. See for yourself what your good son has done to you. Finished, she turned away, unable to watch. She walked toward the door. Finally, it dawned on Eleanor. She looked down and slowly, carefully peeled back a corner of the bandage on her chest. Underneath was not skin, but a raw, crimson landscape of debrided flesh. Ahawa! Her shriek echoed through the hospital. Madison, her back to the bed, turned deathly pale. It was always the same with the Pierce family. No one ever felt the pain until the knife was in their own back. And now that it was, could she still hold her darling son so close to her heart? After the lawsuit, Jax's public profile skyrocketed. By extension, his newly founded company, JX Innovations, was thrust into the public eye. The name Jackson Pierce became a brand, a new generation IP. Riding the wave of popularity, Jax leveraged influencers like his upperclassman Talia Croft to build hype for the Radiance Balm, as well as a line of other scar removal creams, including the now infamous Burn Salve. Thanks to his newfound fame, the products garnered exactly the kind of massive attention Jax had anticipated. Talia Croft, in particular, was a huge asset. She had built her brand on an image of an intelligent, sophisticated, cool older sister type, and she had the bona fides to back it up. A degree from Kingston University. Technically, she was Jax's senior. The number of viewers in her live streams asking about the potent Radiance Balm grew daily. With Jax's permission, Talia promoted it even more aggressively. The crush she already had on him began to stir again. The man she had her eye on was not only a brilliant entrepreneur while still in college, but he was also exceptional. The world might whisper that Jax was being kept by a rich woman, a dynastic heiress, no less. But to Talia, his willingness to sue his own family proved he was just trying to escape a toxic environment. He was so capable, so cunning. How could anyone not be captivated? Talia's skin is looking better and better. It's practically glowing. Like she's being well taken care of, if you know what I mean. Talia, are you secretly dating someone behind our backs? The product she's promoting is called Radiance Balm, supposedly from JX Innovations' new beauty line. They're just using small-time influencers to promote it. Tisk, it's just some no-name brand. I think Talia should protect her reputation. How can you trust a skincare product from some new company just trying to make a quick buck over established brands? I wonder if she's just doing Jax a favor or if there's some other deal between them. It might be a new product, but Talia has been live every day. Her skin is getting better by the day, Her acne scars are vanishing. It's as smooth as a baby's. Keyboard warriors who know nothing about cosmeceuticals should just shut up. The internet was a storm of opinions. But only Talia knew the truth. She didn't care that Jax was enduring a relationship with a rich woman to escape his family. Eventually, the heiress would discard him, and he would return to a normal life. And when that happened, she would be there, ready to be his wife. Jax would be moved, she was sure, and he would accept her. Talia's looks, elegant and gentle, were not unlike the innocent, white moonlight-type Jax seemed to favor in Chloe Vance. It made her confident. After days of non-stop streaming, Talia couldn't stop thinking about him. She finally gave in and sent him a text. Jax, little brother, the promotion has been going great. My fans are all asking where they can buy the product. The 100 jars of Radiance Bomb you sent for the giveaway are almost gone. When can you send more? Or are you on campus? I can come by the student union and pick them up myself. We haven't seen each other in a while. I want to thank you for the $10,000 commission. Let me treat you to dinner, okay? Back at Moonshadow Estate, Jax was busy in the kitchen, the chime of his phone doing nothing to slow the practiced rhythm of his cooking. A man who could conquer the kitchen could conquer a woman's heart. He smiled at the thought. The dishes Lily wanted had to be perfect. He would channel all his skill into making this meal his masterpiece. The text notification didn't bother Jax, but it was like a scent of danger on the wind to the heiress lounging on the sofa. Lily asked her, wearing a pair of pink, fluffy bunny ear slippers she had insisted Jax buy her at the supermarket, hopped into the kitchen. On her head, she wore a ridiculously cute, fuzzy headband shaped like a cartoon rabbit nibbling on a carrot. She had put on the moment they got home, a clear sign she adored it. The entire ensemble was a stark contrast to her usual sharp, powerful business attire, a dissonance that was inexplicably tantalizing. Even Nathan, who was supposed to be a neutral observer, felt an itch in his hands. As Lily bounced past him, he had to physically resist the insubordinate urge to tug on her bunny ears. Close call, Nathan thought. Almost lost my year-end bonus. Mr. Sterling, watching the scene unfold with a bewildered expression, could only think, good Lord, Moonshadow Estate is turning into a zoo. A bird of prey like the young miss, dressed up as a little rabbit? You city folk are really something else. Lily bounced into the kitchen and, just as Jax was perfecting the glaze on a rack of sweet and sour ribs, wrapped her arms around him from behind. At 5'7", even without heels, she radiated a formidable presence. She was usually a lioness, patrolling her territory. This sudden act of playing the docile rabbit was a contrast so jarring it was enough to make Jax's heart melt. At 6'2", Jax was tall and lean. Her soft touch from behind sent a jolt of electricity through him. Lily, you're hungry already? He asked, his voice impossibly gentle. When you feel so completely loved, it's hard to get angry. That was Jax's state of mind. Don't worry, the food's almost ready. My treasure just needs to wait on the sofa. The kitchen is full of smoke. I'll be out to join you in a minute. I don't want to, the heiress pouted, her arms tightening around his trim waist, refusing to let go. When she was drunk, she was impossibly clingy. Jax's words were a gentle scolding, but he was completely susceptible to her charms. One pout from his sick, possessive Lily, and her loyal hound dog's soul would float away. But Lily was like a child now. The hug wasn't enough. Her hand started to roam, exploring his front, searching for something. Her small hand slid straight toward the hem of his shirt. Jax thought, wait, this really isn't the time I treasure. Where is it? She mumbled. Maybe on the other side? Lily had heard the text alert. Jax's social circle was small, and he'd blocked his entire family. Anyone else would have just called. Who would be sending him a text? She might be tipsy, but a woman's intuition was a sharp and accurate thing. Standing behind him, her hands roamed freely, searching. Jax thought, he wasn't crooked. Why wasn't she searching the middle of him? His thoughts were getting as dirty as hers, a clear side effect of spending so much time with the heiress. Ahem. Lily, stop for a second, he stammered, his ears turning red. What are you looking for? Now's not the time to be looking. First we eat, then you can eat me. He had thrown all dignity to the wind, practically offering himself on a platter. Lily, however, just tilted her head, her bright, clear eyes looking at his flushed face with suspicion. Jax, do you have a fever? Why is your face so red and hot? Nathan thought, from a safe distance. Oh, the master is definitely running hot. The young miss clearly has no idea. But after all of Lily's nightly training, the master had certainly become more uninhibited. I don't. Jax was on the verge of tears. Jax, I was just looking for your phone to see who texted you. What did you think I was doing? Lily asked, a sly smile playing on her lips. But if Jax wants to, Lily would be very happy to cooperate. Jax thought, good heavens, the tables have turned. But it was too late. Lily had already snatched the phone. She unlocked it and saw a familiar name. Jax, is Talia Croft that upperclassman of yours? She seems to like you a lot. She even texted you, asking to see you. Lilith's gaze swept over the message, taking in every word. She was intimately familiar with every woman who actively or passively approached Jax. This Talia Croft, of course, was no exception. She had researched her thoroughly. Before she knew Jax was chasing Chloe Vance, Talia had been quite attentive to him. Their backgrounds were even strangely similar. She too had been an adopted daughter, giving them a lot of common ground. The difference was that Jax had been brought into a dynasty. Talia was still just an adopted daughter, which was why she worked so hard to make her own money, even paying her own way through college. On paper, she was a diligent, ambitious young woman. If a domineering heiress like herself hadn't intervened, and if there had been no Chloe Vance, perhaps Jax would have been drawn to a girl like her. But, with her in the picture, Jax would never have another choice. His entire existence was hers to command. The fact that she had given him an empire to run, that she was willing to take a back seat, was a form of sovereignty she had granted him. And Lilith knew with absolute certainty that her possessiveness was a cage she would never unlock. She would rather drag him to the grave with her than set him free. She was a terrible person, but Lilith Astor had always been the villain. Morality? She'd forgotten the meaning of the word. A dark shadow fell over Lilith's eyes, but when she looked up again, her face was once more that of a young girl, blushing and pouting. So Jax, do you like Talia, your mentor, too? She asked, her tone playful. Even just a little bit. She used the contact name he had saved, not Talia's full name. If he truly felt nothing, wouldn't he have just used her real name from the start? The moment Jax heard the name Talia Croft, the hair on his arm stood on end. No, absolutely not. Talia was a kind upperclassman who had been helpful, but he knew perfectly well who owned his heart. Not even a little bit, he said, his face turning pale. Lily, don't let your imagination run wild. It's just a normal business transaction. The money was transferred from the company account. There's nothing personal about it. He was terrified of her losing control, especially while drunk. But in Lilith's eyes, his nervous denial looked like an attempt to protect Talia from her. A coldness swept over Lilith's features. Jax's phone fell from her hand, hitting the floor with a sharp crack. The screen spiderwebbed, a flower of shattered glass. It was a perfect reflection of the heiress herself, covered in thorns. Everyone at Moonshadow Estate, the vibe is off. Retreat. In the blink of an eye, not just the kitchen, but the entire great hall was empty. Mr. Sterling had even dispatched staff to expertly remove the priceless porcelain and paintings. Jax thought, so much for camaraderie. Every man for himself. Lilith stepped forward. Her fluffy bunny slippers softened her approach, lacking the sharp, domineering click of her usual high heels. But as she drew near, Jax could smell the alcohol on her breath, stronger than before. Jax, follow me to the study. With that, she turned and walked away. The absurdly cute outfit did nothing to diminish the murderous aura radiating from her graceful back. Jax thought, oh no, is this it for me? He hesitated for a second, then glanced at the ribs in the pot, which were on the verge of burning. Thankfully, the heat was just right. He turned off the stove and plated them, then ladled out a bowl of the medicinal broth he'd prepared earlier. Even a casual meal for Lily was an opportunity to nourish her body. The broth was essential. 5 minutes later, Jax stood hesitantly outside the study door. As he debated whether to enter, he felt a pair of eyes on him. He turned. In a nearby corner, Mr. Sterling and Nathan were vigorously polishing the banister with a cloth. Get the edges, Sterling, Nathan muttered. Don't miss a single spot. Sterling thought, right? And the young miss won't miss a single spot when she unleashes on him, either. Put some muscle into it, Sterling. Sterling thought, geez, you better be talking about the damn banister. Jax rubbed his forehead, ignoring the two vultures. Just wait until I get my chance, he thought. I'll whisper in Lily's ear and have your bonuses docked. He clenched his jaw and, with grim determination, opened the study door and went inside. Sterling and Nathan peeked around the corner. Oh boy, the master has a death wish. Inside the study, Jax stepped cautiously into the room, the bowl of hot broth still in his hands. The blackout curtains were drawn, swallowing the room in darkness. The only light came from a single, dim lamp on Lilith's desk. She was leaning back in her executive chair, her long, crimson-tinged curls spilling over her shoulders, half obscuring her face. In her hand, she held a wine glass, swirling the scarlet liquid with elegant, unhurried movements. Her head, now bare of the cute headband that lay discarded on the floor, was tilted. She looked like a demoness, ready to steal his soul. The scent of wine emanating from her was a fatal poison, luring him closer. She lifted her gaze. Her mesmerizing, predatory eyes held a flicker of softness, of vulnerability. A pang shot through Jax's heart. He couldn't resist. He approached, placed a bowl of broth on the desk, and moved to get closer. Jackson. His heart tightened again. She never used his full name unless she was truly angry. Lily, let me expel. He leaned forward to take the wine glass from her hand, but she had anticipated his move. The glass tilted, and a stream of red wine cascaded down his neck. "They are all wet," the heiress said, a strange, excited gleam in her dark eyes as she admired her handiwork. Jax's heart hammered his chest. He didn't dare imagine what she would do next. He only knew that she never took the conventional path. Lily, he knew she was drunk, out of control. He tried to snap her out of it, but a soft finger pressed against his lips. "Chill. You're not being a good boy, Jax." Her voice was a low purr. "And if you're not a good boy, you'll have to play a game with me." Jax's brain nearly short-circuited. What game? It didn't sound like an innocent one. "That pink diamond collar I gave you. Where is it, my treasure?" The heiress leaned in close, the rich scent of wine mixed with her natural rose fragrance threatening to consume him. "Jackson, your neck is covered in wine. So messy. Come here. I'll help you clean it up." She crooked a finger. Jax instinctively leaned down. Without hesitation, she pressed her lips to his neck, her kisses slowly blotting away the wine. Jax thought, "Damn it, my soul is floating away." The sensation on his neck sent a tremor through Jax's very soul, as if the heiress were draining it away. But her movements were so light, like a feather brushing against his skin, her red lips sipping away the wine drop by drop. Jax froze. Soon, the gentleness was replaced by her uniquely bossy possessiveness. Her gaze grew more intense, as if she were seeing him as a doll that belonged only to her. No one else could touch it. Lily, listen to me," he stammered. "I already explained everything. I swear on my life, I will only ever love Lilith Astor. Lily, you don't have to feel insecure. I'm sorry I made you feel threatened. I'll do everything in my power to make it up to you." Jax was panicking. Counting his past life, he had seen the heiress in nearly every state imaginable. But this blend of gentleness and perversity was the most alluring and terrifying. He was afraid of her losing control while drunk. But he was even more afraid that she was hurting inside, that she was as shattered and insecure as she used to be. This time, however, he couldn't let the situation spiral. This time, Jax took the initiative. He wrapped an arm around Lilith's slender waist, pulling the woman who had been kissing his neck fiercely into his lap. This time, Jax's kiss was the assault. His technique had never been great, but after weeks of being kissed by the heiress every night, he had learned through muscle memory alone. He knew exactly what Lilith wanted, and if she wanted it, why not give it to her? Security was, after all, absolute possession. Jax took the lead, his sudden dominance a stark reversal of their usual roles. He sat her on his lap, becoming the master. Lilith froze for a second, then surrendered to the explosive love he was unleashing. "Lily, I love you," he murmured against her lips. "Only you. This life, my last life. My next life. I will only ever love one woman. It's my fault you feel insecure. Will you let me make it up to you? Tonight, I'll take the lead." His rare show of dominance moved her. She hadn't really needed an explanation. The fact that other women pursued Jax was a good thing. It proved her taste was impeccable. But the heiress simply hated the feeling of others coveting her possessions. It had nothing to do with Jax's feelings for them. It was ironic. In New York, across the entire country, Lilith Astor was a titan, a born ruler who looked down on the weak. But in love, she was just an insecure little girl. After her heart was first opened, she had stumbled along, loving Jax in the only way she knew how. If you love him, you seize him and hold him close. It was a childish logic, a possessiveness born of innocence, the most honest of human impulses. Adults simply learned restraint. But Lilith had no need for restraint. She had the power to take what she wanted, so why shouldn't she? Jax's kisses grew more intense, as if by being more dominant than her, he could give her an extra measure of security, an extra measure of love. The long, drawn-out symphony finally faded into silence. Jax was exhausted, but his hand, as if magnetized, remained firmly on her waist. He tilted his head and kissed her forehead again and again, his lips gentle, pure, filled with a man's unspeakable tenderness. "Baby, no more drinking, okay?" he said, his chiding tone laced with a lingering fear. He couldn't afford to be so depleted at his young age. You get wicked when you're drunk. Jackson, I didn't get wicked, Lilith murmured, her eyes closed, clearly exhausted as well. Her stamina, after all, was formidable. I've always been wicked, Jax thought. I'm well aware. But at least he had regained the upper hand. Lily, I'll handle all my interactions with other women at work. He was cut off as Lilith reached up, wrapped her arms around his neck, and covered his mouth with her hand. Jax, she whispered, it's not just jealousy. I know everything about your connection with Talia Croft. Your lonely past, the moments you were tormented by feelings of abandonment, even while your family pretended to love you. It must have been so hard. All those thoughts you shared with her, that bond you formed because you both understood. I'm not angry, Jax. My heart aches for you, and I can't help but blame myself. I was too late. I didn't grow up fast enough. I bought you from the Jeong family, but I wasn't strong enough then to bring you to my side, and you suffered for it. You've grown so much now. You're closer to my level. But that road you walked, how painful was it? How long did you have to endure? This was the first time Lilith had truly opened up, analyzing the changes in him. She was a powerful, perceptive woman. It would be a lie to say she hadn't had her suspicions about his radical transformation. But she had watched silently, observing him, secretly helping him. It didn't mean she was ignorant. As she spoke, she felt the body of the man she was holding begin to tremble. She raised a hand, gently stroking his forehead and his hair. Her touch was impossibly soft. My Jax, you don't have to carry so much weight. Can't you let yourself be happy? You don't have to say anything. Just know that my power will always be your shield. Her tenderness was a current threatening to drown him. Since his rebirth, he had walked a long, dark road alone, fueled by betrayal, torment, and hatred for the Pierce family. He had taken his revenge, using Lily's power, while wrestling with his own sense of baseness. His love was real, but so was the fact that he had used her power. And now, she was telling him she had seen through his facade all along. Not to accuse him, but out of heartfelt pain for him. On his long, dark path, she had appeared, lighting a lamp, giving him a harbor called home. Jax's body shook, a sharp sting in his nose as his eyes burned with unshed tears. Even a man has moments of weakness. To be comforted, cared for, held at a time like this, it was devastatingly effective. Lilith's fingertips gently wiped the moisture from the corner of his eye. Jax, if you feel wronged, you can cry. I'm not just anyone. I'm your wife. But Jax held back the tears. He looked up, meeting her deep, gentle eyes. Lily, the secret I've been hiding is in South Korea. Grandma, are you telling me that Jackson dared to have you and Caleb put in a detention center? You're not young. How could you endure that kind of place? He's lost his mind. And Caleb, he's so fragile. A detention center is no place for a young master like him. That country bumpkin Jackson might be tough, but our Caleb wasn't raised like some feral kid. Jackson really needs to be taught a lesson. Skyler Pierce was overseas. As one of the world's most commercially valuable female race car drivers, she was not only a professional athlete, but also a cash cow beloved by the capital markets. Furthermore, Skyler had used her racing earnings to make a prescient long-term investment in AI technology development in Korea. In this life, as in the last, her path was destined to be dominant and ever-rising. As they say, it takes wealth to build a warrior. The Pierce family had groomed Skyler from a young age to be a national-level athlete. She had dabbled in fencing, martial arts, and skiing. But it was her racing career that had made her a star. In top-tier international competitions, every driver has their own professional-grade car, a machine that is like their soulmate. Skyler's pride and joy was the Predator, the highest-performance custom race car in the world, perfectly tuned to her handling. It was the Predator that had launched her onto the international stage, where she made a name for herself as the beautiful race car driver. While her number of championships wasn't the highest in the world, she was a master of marketing. There were many great drivers, but a beautiful one from her country who had achieved international fame was a rarity. The market craved an image like hers, one that fueled fantasies. She was so famous abroad that when she returned home, her status was nearly on par with A-list celebrities. Don't worry, Grandma, she said into her phone. I happen to have a race back home soon. When I get back, I'll make sure Jackson kneels in the ancestral hall for 5 days and nights. I'll have him whipped with a family cane until he can't stand up straight. We were merciful enough to take a wild kid like him into our home. For him to repeatedly try to harm Caleb, the audacity is unbelievable. Skyler was used to being on top. Though she was the third sister, her attitude was different from Morgan's, who was more tolerant and caring toward her younger siblings. Skyler had a fiery temper and had often been the one to personally administer family discipline to Jax. She had a particular dislike for him. When he first arrived at the Pierce mansion, dressed in rags, she had suggested sending him to live in the dilapidated building in the backyard where they kept the dogs. For peace and quiet, she'd claimed. But everyone knew that the kind-hearted Skyler loved to adopt stray dogs, and she kept them in that same decrepit building. Taking in a dozen strays was nothing to her. The suggestion that Jax live there was a blatant, undisguised insult. But the Jax of that time had no idea. He'd foolishly thought he might disturb the family's harmony and had willingly agreed to go. The servants' faces had turned ashen. Only Skyler had laughed maliciously. "Well, Jax, shall I take you there then, third sister?" Her cruel smile made the newly arrived Jax suspicious, but he obediently nodded. His adoptive mother had told him to be good around his blood relatives. Don't talk back to elders, and get along with your siblings. He tried his best. That night, he was kicked into the small building that reeked of stray dogs and locked in. The Pierces were masters of passive aggression, but Skyler was an open book about her dislike for him. He wasn't afraid of the dogs or the filth. It was the humiliation. It was as if she were saying, "Jackson, do you really think you're a young master now? Look, you're no different from a stray dog I picked up off the street." It was a trampling of his dignity, an absolute spiritual contempt. That night, Jax did not submit. He cleaned up a small area, then shoveled a bag full of dog shit, scaled the wall, and left the small building. He had an eidetic memory for places he'd been. He remembered the layout of the main villa and found his way back. He climbed through a window and, making sure not to miss a single occupied room, left a pile of dog shit on every family member's bed. When he got to Skyler's room, he deposited 2 piles on her pillow. Others got it on their blankets. She deserved his special attention. The next morning, the Pierce mansion was in an uproar. The entire family hated the newcomer Jax with a passion. They were all summoned to the ancestral hall. The family patriarch, frail and coughing, rose with his cane and went to strike Skyler. "Neil, you bully your brother the moment he comes home. I brought him here myself. No one is to bully him." The old man put on a great show of authority, but after the 10th strike on Skyler's hand, he coughed up a mouthful of blood. The doctor said it was rage. Jax stood before his grandfather like a child who had done wrong, filled with guilt. "Jax, I'm too sick to protect you," the old man wheezed. "This isn't your fault. Just promise me you won't be so willful anymore. If you cause trouble, the family will never be at peace, and I can't rest easy." Jax was young, naive, and didn't realize he was being put through an obedience test. He only knew he had to be good for his grandfather's sake. "I promise, Grandpa, I won't cause any more trouble." Skyler, reluctantly, apologized. "Sorry, little brother Jax. I was just playing around." Jax, believing her, scratched his head. "It's okay, third sister. I was just playing around too." Skyler choked on her fury. "Wild kid. You'll always be a wild kid. You'll never compare to the cultured, refined Caleb." Jax's voice was a low, hoarse whisper, the knot in his heart a secret he had buried deep. The sheer volume of hatred, regret, and despair made it impossible to speak of that past, especially not to Lilith, the woman he had wronged, despised, and who had ultimately died for him in his past life. He lowered his eyes, his voice trembling as he prepared to continue. "Shh." Lilith pressed a finger to his lips. "Jax, you don't have to say it." As the absolute power in New York, she didn't need a confession to pierce the veil. Her guess might be absurd, but based on his profound change in demeanor, she could make a bold assumption. But she didn't need to know the secret. She only needed Jax to know that she would give him a home, that she never regretted what she'd invested in him. Whatever he wanted, the heiress would provide, unconditionally. Jax froze. He opened his mouth to speak again, but she silenced him with a deep, tender kiss, dissolving all unspoken secrets. A long time later, she murmured, "Jax, Lily wants more." Kingston University. After recovering slightly, Sam Cole went to the university to handle some work Jax had delegated to him over the phone. The Kingston Student Union was a microcosm of society. Jax's appointment to president as a freshman had been unprecedented and met with widespread ridicule, with everyone assuming he'd pulled strings. The position was usually reserved for juniors or seniors. Jax had silenced the critics with his sheer competence, but now, thanks to the salacious rumors swirling around campus, the grumbling had started again. With Jax busy with JX innovations, his absence was causing friction. "Well, look who it is. Sam Cole, doing Jax's dirty work again," sneered Aaron Chase, the head of the secretariat. Now a senior, he had always resented Jax for snagging the presidency as a freshman. He'd never been able to find fault with Jax's work, but his repeated absences were the perfect opportunity to stir up dissent. Our president is something else. Too busy servicing his sugar mama to even show up to campus, I guess. Jessica, a member of the publicity department, pricked up her ears. She frowned, as if she'd been holding her tongue for a long time. Aaron, don't say that, she interjected, her voice full of false sympathy. Chloe was his white moonlight. He's only with her because of the accident that happened to Chloe. It's a holy act of salvation for him. Everyone knows how pure and wonderful our Chloe was. She was the campus queen, the girl every guy wanted. If it weren't for Jax, she wouldn't have had that accident. I'm sure Jax is still sacrificing himself so Chloe can live a good life. A man that devoted. I think we can forgive him for being absent. I have such a weakness for devoted men. If only Jax felt that way about me. Since Chloe Vance's fall from grace, Jessica's own star had been on the rise at Kingston. She was pretty enough in a vivid, striking way that contrasted with Chloe's gentle, pure image, a contrast she had deliberately cultivated. After Chloe's reputation imploded, Jessica had publicly distanced herself while privately continuing to manipulate her. She fed Chloe a story. Jax's new wealth was just a temporary arrangement with the heiress. Deep down, every man pines for the white moonlight he never possessed. Jax had exposed Chloe's scandals only because he loved her so deeply he couldn't stand the thought of her being tainted. Chloe still had a chance, Jessica insisted, if she was willing to be bold. Chloe, a shrewd operator herself, was skeptical but desperate. Jessica, do you have a plan? Caleb is out of the picture now. I need a man to maintain my position at Kingston. And that man had to be Jax. The Jax of today was a world apart from the Jax of a month ago. Winning him back, even just as a symbolic white moonlight, would be enough to restore her status. Chloe, when Jax was obsessed with you, didn't he tell you everything? Did he ever talk about his family? Jessica probed. He's clearly cut off the Pierces. But what about his adoptive family? Or is there another weakness he has within the Pierce clan? You know him better than anyone. That person who took him by force is probably incredibly jealous of you. Jessica's words hit their mark. Chloe's eyes lit up. Jessica, you're right. He was very attached to that poor family that raised him, but they've all vanished. It would be impossible to find them. But I do remember hearing he has a soft spot for his second uncle, Ryan Pierce, the one who studies traditional medicine, but is a disabled cripple who can't even heal himself. He apparently gives occasional lectures at the Kingston Medicinal Research Institute. Getting close to him would be the easiest way. As Chloe divulged this secret, she didn't notice the gleam in Jessica's eyes. So, Ryan Pierce is Jax's weakness? Jessica thought. Get close to the uncle, get closer to Jax. She continued to soothe Chloe, her own plan taking shape. As a member of the student union's publicity department, Jessica had easy access to the offices and schedules. She quickly found the date of Ryan Pierce's next lecture. It was a medical lecture, and since she and Chloe were both pre-med, her attendance wouldn't seem out of place. She felt the small packet of powder in her pocket, the one Caleb had pressed into her hand after Chloe's downfall. A thrill of excitement ran through her. Jessica, you're a smart woman, Caleb had said. You were always good at using Chloe to get things from that fool Jax. Now that he's latched onto the Heiress and has power, you deserve a piece of the pie. After all, if Chloe got a share of what he had, you should get one too. Human greed is insatiable. Jax's sudden transformation and his severing of ties with Chloe had hit Jessica hard. The sponsorships, thousands of dollars worth of luxury goods a month, had dried up. Caleb had seen her resentment and chosen her as his new pawn. What can you give me, Caleb? Or what do you want me to do? Jessica had replied with a cool smile. She had her own ambitions. She wasn't interested in Caleb so much as the type of man he represented. One who, once in love, would give his heart, liver, and soul. A man perfect for being bled dry, just as Chloe had done with Jax. I can give you an opportunity, Caleb had said. You have feelings for Jax, don't you? I can help you, but I need your commitment. Chloe lost because she was damaged goods. Jax couldn't have her, so he destroyed her. But you're smart. You're still untouched. If you're willing to take a gamble and become my weapon against the Astors, I can ensure you live a life of luxury. The promise alone wasn't enough, but then he'd slid a debit card across the table. There's $15,000 on here. I hear your mother, who raised you on her own, has a minor illness. This is more than enough to see that she doesn't suffer. All I need you to do is find a way to seduce Jax and get pregnant with his child. Once you have him, you'll have a lifetime of wealth and glory. To be a leech on an elephant meant an endless supply of blood. But the Heiress. Jessica hesitated. The path was tempting, but no one dared to challenge Lilith Astor. Don't worry. Chloe had Jax's heart, and the heiress, for all her power, didn't dare touch her, did she? Caleb's words chipped away at her resolve. And you, all you need to do is use this powder to sleep with him. I guarantee you'll get pregnant. Then, both Jax and Lilith will be dancing to your tune. With Chloe out of the game, Caleb had simply moved to his next piece. His goal was to take everything from Jax. And once that was done, he would take Lilith too. The thought of a woman like that, so beautiful and powerful. He had to taste her at least once. But first, he would utterly humiliate them both. Jessica had taken the card. Back in the student union office, Jessica's sudden defense of Jax caught everyone's attention. They weren't fools. She and Chloe had been inseparable, and Jessica had clearly benefited from Jax's servitude. Her words, dripping with envy and desire, exposed her ambition. Sam Cole, acting as Jax's proxy, heard her and his eyes filled with contempt. His own body was still wrapped in bandages, but his presence was intimidating. Jessica, save what's left of your brain for counting sheep at night. Where in the hell did you get the idea my bro is still hung up on that bitch Chloe? She spent all day pretending to be a delicate flower, but behind the scenes, she was basically a public utility. Sam's language was getting foul. She's that filthy and still has the nerve to try and get my bro to take her back? Did your mother throw you out and raise the afterbirth instead? He directed his tirade at Jessica. He knew exactly what she was. She had leashed off Jax through Chloe for years. Anyone who threatened his bro was an enemy. Sam, don't think you can do whatever you want at Kingston just because you're friends with Jax. Jessica shot back, her voice sharp. Don't think we don't know. Your girlfriend Kira, your childhood sweetheart, is pregnant with your child, and now that you have a little money from following Jax around, you won't even pay for her to get an abortion. The only thing a man like you is good at is being cruel to women. Her accusation silenced the room. All eyes turned to Sam, now filled with disdain. TSK, they thought. A classic case of a guy ditching his long-term girlfriend the second he gets a taste of money. Sam felt a lump in his throat. He couldn't believe Kira had gone to the university to spread the rumor that the baby was his. He had loved her for years, his childhood sweetheart, and would have once given her everything. But he'd seen her with his own eyes, debased and used, unable to even name the father. And now she wanted him to take the fall? It was an insult. Kira knew how soft-hearted he was. She was counting on him not wanting to destroy the pure, angelic reputation she had carefully cultivated as the campus flower of the foreign languages department. Sam, I can't believe you're that kind of person. You get a little money from being Jax's lapdog, and you dump your pregnant girlfriend? Yeah, if you abandon her, and she does something drastic. That's 2 lives on your conscience. Huh, I bet he got a little taste of the high life from Jax, and thinks he's a big shot now. Kira is a campus flower. She's beautiful, smart. You should be worshiping the ground she walks on. The gossip was a direct challenge to Sam's authority in the student union. He saw it, and his gaze hardened on Jessica. She was a snake. Cut the crap, Sam snarled. Kira cheated on me and is carrying some bastard's kid. The fact that I haven't plastered her dirty laundry all over campus is me being merciful. Since you want to pin this on me, don't blame me for not playing nice. I'm not going to be the chump who takes the fall. And all of you, with your high and mighty morals. If you're so righteous, why don't you step up and play dad? Especially you, Aaron. You've been the loudest. You want to be the hero? Her number hasn't changed. Call her up and volunteer. Sam had learned a new motto from Jax. Don't sweat it, just fight. You only live once. Better to bury your enemies than to complain about your own life. Aaron, who had been quietly fanning the flames against Jax, froze. Being cuckolded was the ultimate taboo for any man. And this was taking on the kid, too. No one could stomach that. Sam, do you have proof? Jessica pressed, seeing her opening. Kira is your girlfriend. After all these years, you're just going to throw her away and slander her reputation? You're a scumbag. If you can't produce evidence, then don't blame me for reporting you to the University Ethics Committee for defamation and irresponsibility. A person with your reputation has no right to be managing student union affairs. It was a sharp move. She knew Sam wouldn't have hard evidence on hand, and his lingering feelings for Kira would make him hesitate to destroy her completely. He would be forced to step down. Without anyone to help him, Jax would have to come to the university himself. Jessica clutched the packet of powder under the table, her plan falling into place. Sam was trapped. He was a witness, but to prove it would ruin Kira. He couldn't bring himself to do it. After the meeting, he quietly called Jax. All right, Jax said after hearing the story. Leave the student union matters alone for now. I'll handle it myself. Sam hesitated, then said, Bro, I need to ask you for a favor. Find proof that Kira cheated on me. Video, if possible. Moonshadow Estate. In the study, cloaked in darkness by the heavy curtains, Jax held Lilith in his arms. She wore only a black silk and lace slip, her skin as smooth as milk beneath his touch. The emotional storm had passed, and he was finally calm. The truth about his rebirth was too fantastical. Whatever Lily guessed, she could never arrive at the full answer. And if he told her, he wasn't sure if she would truly believe him or just humor him, as she always did. It was hard for outsiders to imagine that the powerful, rational CEO of a financial empire was, in front of him, just an insecure little girl. A needy kitten who had to be pressed against him every night, as if only total physical contact could satisfy her. "Jax, I know you're in a hurry to build your own career," Lilith whispered, her voice a low murmur against his shoulder. "But no matter how your business does, you're the man I chose. That alone is enough to place you above anyone in this city. In 3 days, it's my mother Susanna's birthday. My uncle's family, the Sinclairs, are throwing a huge party for her. Relatives and business partners from all over the world will be there. Jax, I want you to attend with me as my husband." Jax stiffened. His last encounter with the Astor family at their estate had been unpleasant. He had also met Lily's mother, Susanna Astor, that day. He could see that, despite Lily's best efforts to hide it, no daughter could truly hate the woman who gave her life. Of course, he, in his past life, had been trapped in the same kind of family predicament. "Jax, you don't have to answer right away," she added. "I will always respect your choice." Jax's mind raced. He knew that the heads of the Astor dynasty had always married into other powerful families. Lily's parents were the product of such a union. Her mother's family, the Sinclairs, were a dominant force in New York. Rumor had it that Lily had nearly wiped out the Astor clan, and the fact that her mother had been safely tucked away in a high-end sanatorium was because of the Sinclair family's influence. The mental breakdown was just a convenient excuse. For years, the Sinclairs had quietly tried to sabotage Lily's career. Her uncle, Warren Sinclair, was an ambitious man. He had been on the verge of rivaling the Astor dynasty's power when his own ruthless, patricidal niece had appeared out of nowhere and seized control. It had infuriated him. The family elders, terrified of the curse that claimed every Astor woman before her 25th birthday, had forced Lily's hand. To keep her position as head of the family, she had to marry and produce an heir. It was a rule every head of the family had to follow. That was what had led to the absurd contractual marriage in the first place. But Moonshadow Estate was a cursed place. 7 potential suitors had died there, and the great families had grown wary, until a wild card named Jackson Pierce appeared. "Lily, what are you talking about?" Jack said, his voice firm. "I am your legal husband. In a situation like this, the man standing by your side can only be me. As your husband, meeting my mother-in-law officially. I'll be ready. I won't embarrass you." The last time he'd seen the woman, she had seemed genuinely unhinged. He was nervous about what she might say in a formal setting. Lily sensed his anxiety and chuckled, leaning in to kiss his earlobe until it flushed scarlet. "Don't be nervous, baby," she purred. "And after you come to the party with me, I'll go with you to meet your adoptive parents. The mom and dad who raised you, who you still care so much for. They must have poured their hearts into raising you. Your parents are my parents. I'll take care of them as their daughter-in-law." Her gaze was so gentle, Jax felt he could drown in it. How could such a perfect woman exist? And how could she be his? "Lily, you're so good," he murmured, kissing her forehead. At that moment, the chaste kiss was more intimate than any passionate embrace. "And I love you. I will love you for all eternity." An invitation to a top-tier banquet? TSK. Just put it over there. I just got back to the country, and a partner already knows. All the biggest names in New York will be there, won't they? My charm is truly impossible to hide. Skyler Pierce had barely stepped off the plane when her agent handed her an unsolicited invitation. She couldn't figure out why a top family like the Sinclairs would invite someone who was, in their eyes, essentially a celebrity. But being able to enter that circle was a symbol of status. Even the biggest movie stars in the world didn't have access. At the thought, Skyler's already proud chin lifted a little higher. "Skyler, you're not just a beautiful race car driver representing the country. You're an essential part of the national sports promotion strategy. Of course you'd receive an invitation of this caliber. Your own strength earned it." Her agent gushed, grinning from ear to ear. Just leaking a whisper of this invitation would be enough to make others burn with envy and would exponentially increase Skyler's commercial value. "Enough," Skyler said. "First, I'm going to the detention center. I've only been gone for 3 months, and it looks like that troublemaker Jax has turned the whole Pierce family upside down. Take my handwritten letter to Commissioner Miller. Tell him to find a way to get my family out, no matter what. Otherwise, how can I compete for the country? Let him weigh the pros and cons himself." Her tone was calm and confident, as if she were certain there was nothing in New York she couldn't handle. After all, the country needed her. "The car is ready, Skyler." Soon, Skyler and her agent were standing outside the detention center. By sheer coincidence, they ran into Caleb, who was being released early on medical grounds due to his frail condition. He had only been sentenced to 3 days. As the true instigator, his punishment was the lightest. The injustice of all made Scarlett, still locked up, sick to her stomach. Morgan, the eldest sister, had only been charged with slander and was given 7 days. She had used her connections and money to get out early. On the day of her release, she walked right past her grandmother and Caleb's cells without a single glance. "Wicked girl," the old Pierce matriarch had shrieked after she was gone. "That wild boy has corrupted her. She doesn't even respect her elders anymore. Just wait until I get out. I'll make her kneel in the ancestral hall and learn some rules." For the old woman, the ancestral hall was the symbol of her power. She used ancestral rites to control and punish her children and grandchildren, satisfying her need for authority. This trip to court, however, had shattered her sense of control. Her grandchildren were starting to defy her. Dressed in a plain detention uniform, stripped of her expensive clothes and jewelry, she looked exactly like a bitter old woman from the countryside. When Skyler saw Caleb's dejected figure emerging from the building, she rushed forward, her cool expression finally cracking with concern. She had watched this brother grow up. She knew his character, and now he was in a detention center. It had to be Jax's doing. "Caleb, what happened?" she asked, her voice soft. "Let me look at you. You've gotten so thin. Did that wild kid Jax frame you?" "Don't worry. Third sister is back. I'll take care of him." Caleb collapsed into her arms as if he had suffered the greatest injustice in the world, tears streaming down his face. Third sister, you're finally back." His fragile yet defiant look made Skyler's heart ache, and her anger toward Jax grew. "Don't be upset, Caleb. Third sister is here for you. Tell me exactly what happened. That kid Jax was always a coward, fawning over us. How did he get so bold?" This was what Skyler couldn't understand. She had been busy overseas and knew nothing about what had transpired. Of course, she could have had someone investigate, but to her, nothing was more reliable than the truth from Caleb's own lips. She trusted only him. After all, it was Caleb who had custom-built her top-tier race car, the Predator, allowing her to dominate the racing world and even surpass the records of the legendary underground racer. The Ghost. Of course, the Ghost had been forced into retirement 2 years ago due to a doping scandal. His records remained unbroken, but he was a myth of the past. That meant the current racing scene, from official circuits to the dangerous underground, was hers for the taking. For now, though, her focus was on her brother. She gently wiped away his tears. "Third sister," Caleb sobbed, "whatever I tell you, please don't blame Brother Jax. It has nothing to do with him. If you have to blame someone, blame me." The moment Caleb spoke those words, Skyler was convinced. It was Jax's fault. Her kind, gentle brother was suffering, yet he was still trying to cover for that wild kid. Jax should be grateful to have such a brother, she thought. Instead, he keeps pushing him into the abyss. It was obvious Jax was just jealous and insecure. The entire family knew they should compensate Jax for his hard childhood, but hearts are made of flesh. Everyone favored Caleb, and Jax's constant, cringy attempts to fit in had only brought shame upon them. She remembered the time he made a foraged wild green tart for a major banquet, a dish made from a weed only the poorest country folk would eat. It was a pathetic attempt to play the victim and get attention, and it had mortified their mother. And when they were both kidnapped, she remembered the look in Jax's eyes as the kidnappers pushed him off a cliff. He had stared at them all, a look that said he would die with his eyes wide open, cursing them. The memory had given her nightmares for years. When a very much alive Jax returned to the family, that look, deep cold and full of hate, haunted her. He wasn't there to be part of a family. He was there for revenge. Her grandmother was right. Jax was a jinx. Of course, there had been a brief moment of peace between them. Before her first major underground race, Jax had thoughtfully prepared a complete set of gear for her, including a newly designed team uniform with her club name embroidered on it, perfectly capturing her fiery style. For a moment, she had looked at her brother and felt her heart soften. "You did a good job, Jax," she had said, a rare, unguarded smile on her face. Third sister likes it very much. But the smile vanished as her eyes drifted past him to see Caleb arriving. A much brighter, more radiant smile bloomed on her face. "Caleb, you came to cheer me on. You're my good luck charm. With you here, I'm sure to win." Her unconscious words revealed her true feelings. No matter what, Caleb was the family's lucky star. And no matter what, Jax was the jinx. Jax's body went rigid, but no one noticed. No one cared. Brother Jax is here too, Caleb had said, his voice low but loud enough for Skyler to hear. He stepped closer to Jax, feigning sincerity. Oh, Brother Jax, I'm sorry, I didn't want to say anything, but Grandma asked me to tell you to go back and pray for third sister in the ancestral hall. She's afraid if you're here. Your bad luck might affect the race. The custom-designed suit suddenly felt like a hot potato in Skyler's hands. For someone who competed for a living, luck was everything. She had Jackson away. Later, when he returned, he saw the suit he had so carefully designed tossed on the ground in a corner. After that, their relationship was never the same. Enough, Skyler said now, her voice firm. You don't have to cover for him. I know his character, and I know yours. He's the one behind this. Now that I'm back, I won't let him be so arrogant. Come on. We'll get Grandma out first. She's too old for this kind of hardship. Skyler was a woman of her word. Seeing her grandmother suffer in jail was unbearable, and she was prepared to spend whatever it took to get her out. She and Caleb headed back inside the detention center. What? $1 million? Skyler stared at the officer in disbelief. Are you people thieves? This is a city facility. Isn't there any rule of law? It was just an old woman scolding her own grandson. How does that warrant this? The price was astronomical. She'd have thought $100,000 was generous. The officer sighed, leaning forward conspiratorially. Ms. Pierce, you don't understand. That old witch, the old matron, she didn't just disrupt a court proceeding. The suit filed by Professor Roth alleges attempted murder right there on the courthouse floor. $1 million is just for the emotional damages claim. Your family's law firm is already paying out hundreds of millions, and several of their partners are about to be disbarred. $1 million to get the old lady out of here. You should consider yourselves lucky. Skyler knew her second sister Madison's new boyfriend, Gavin Holt, was a partner at that very law firm. Who could have possibly defeated him in his own arena? The name Astor came to mind. One word from that family could uproot anyone in New York. A shiver of fear ran down her spine. But she wouldn't have to cross that woman. Jax was just a kept man, a boy toy who got lucky. A woman like that would never truly fall for a kid from the gutter. To avoid any more trouble, Skyler gritted her teeth and paid the bail. She rushed into the detention facility to help her grandmother. Grandma, take it slow. It's my fault. I'm sorry you had to stay in a place like this. You've suffered, she said, her voice gentle. I have a car waiting. Let's go home first. Skyler had Caleb escort their grandmother to the car before returning to the officer. Where are Morgan and Scarlett Pierce being held? Can I see them? It was absurd. The Pierce family was small, and nearly half of them were behind bars. Men, women, young, old. The shame was immense. Ms. Morgan Pierce has already posted bail and left, the officer said flatly. As for Ms. Scarlett Pierce, she was the primary plaintiff in the false accusation case against Mr. Pierce. Her detention is longer, and she has requested no visitors. That was her own wish. The news left Skyler reeling. A once harmonious family, now torn apart by one person, Jax. And Morgan had bailed herself out, leaving everyone else behind? It sounded like a twisted joke. Morgan, the responsible eldest sister who always looked out for her younger siblings, had been selfish enough to save only herself? Not even her grandmother? Skyler felt her worldview cracking, but then she rationalized it. Jax had put them all through too much. His presence was a curse, a plague on the family. She had to convince her grandmother to strike his name from the family records before he destroyed them all. Jadevine Manor, the Sinclair estate. The party was in full swing. The estate, part of Susanna Astor's dowry, was a lavish display of old money power, a clear statement from Warren Sinclair that his family was on par with the Astors. Lilith knew his intentions, but couldn't be bothered to care. Quinn Vanderbilt made her entrance in a stunning, custom red gown, a ruby necklace glittering at her throat. The entire room seemed to light up. On her arm was a new boy toy, a pretty young thing who looked terrified of the opulent surroundings. Well, Uncle, what a lovely gesture, Quinn said, walking straight up to Warren Sinclair, her voice dripping with sarcasm. She used the familial title to make her allegiance clear. She stood with Lilith. A birthday party for Aunt Susanna. A pity that in her current mental state, she won't even know you're celebrating her. Warren's face darkened. He had planned to use the party to publicly decry Lilith for her hostile takeover of the Astor family and for driving his sister mad. Quinn's blatant mention of the taboo subject was a direct challenge. Ms. Vanderbilt, he said through clenched teeth, your friendship with my niece is well known, but that is no reason to be so rude. A woman of your station should have better manners. Manners? Quinn laughed. When you stand where I stand, you don't follow the rules. You make the rules. The same goes for Lilith. If you've truly gone down the wrong path, uncle, can you withstand her wrath? The word sent a chill down Warren's spine. He had once doted on little Lilith, but he had also stood by and done nothing when her older sister, Luna, disappeared. And when Lilith, orphaned and traumatized, had come to him for help, he hadn't mentioned a word about her sister's fate. That was why Lilith no longer acknowledged him. The last time she had called him uncle was the night her mother had her breakdown. Lilith, her goth-style dress stained with blood, a scythe still in her hand, had walked through the rain to the Sinclair estate. The house was lit up, but no one would open the door for her hysterical mother. Lilith, a teenager with a face splattered in blood that almost obscured her perfect features, had calmly pressed the intercom. Uncle, her voice, hoarse and low, had crackled through the speaker in a sing-song tone. Don't hide. Your niece knows you're home. Now, inside the opulent manor, Quinn's words were a series of provocations, and Warren didn't dare utter a single word in retort. The name Lilith Astor carried too much weight, too much of a threat. You're right, Ms. Vanderbilt, he finally managed, bowing his head slightly. As her uncle, I would never stand in my niece's way. This party is merely a celebration for my sister, nothing more. You'd better mean that, uncle, Quinn said with an arrogant smile. She swept away, grabbing a glass of champagne and settling under a trellis of white roses. She remembered Lilith loving the swing set that used to be there, now long gone. Lilith used to have dimples when she smiled. Quinn murmured to herself. I can't even remember the last time I saw her laugh. Ms. Vanderbilt, you knew Ms. Astor when she was a child? Her new pet asked, his eyes full of innocent curiosity. Quinn looked at him, a flicker of familiarity in his features, and ruffled his hair. Yes, she was a little princess. Now, like her, she was a demoness everyone feared. The Vanderbilt family was different. Any of Quinn's peers who threatened her position as head of the family disappeared. That's how she earned her monikers. The Serpent of the Vanderbilts, the Merciless Quinn. After she became the sole heir, the title Third Miss was dropped. She was simply Ms. Vanderbilt. She and Lily had known each other since childhood. The Vanderbilts, despite having 3 sons, had only ever planned to use Quinn as a bargaining chip for a strategic marriage. From a young age, Quinn knew she could only rely on herself. When her 13-year-old brother tried to push her into a pool to see her flounder, she threw him in instead. Every time he tried to climb out, she would coldly break one of his fingers. Is it fun to bully your older sister, little brother? She'd asked. What a pity. No one will ever have the right to call me sister again. She pushed his head under the water and then, for good measure, threw a few snakes in after him. Of course, the family suspected her. But by then, Quinn was already managing a major project for the family corporation. For the sake of profit, they didn't touch her. See? That's how these dynasties work. Everything is about the bottom line. What's one dead son when you have 2 more? Except, those 2 didn't last long either. The air was thick with chatter. I heard the Astor heiress went crazy for a boy toy, even renamed her company and signed over all her shares. What a top-tier simp. Why couldn't that happen to me? I'd be her loyal dog. You think she's that desperate? That boy toy of hers is a real talent. He's only a sophomore, but his company, JX Innovations, is already clearing millions. All the influencers he signs blow up. It's uncanny. I heard that, too. His top influencer is all over the place with that rich kid principal from Summit Enterprises, and their popularity is soaring together. Yeah, a boy toy is a boy toy, sneered a voice. Without the Astor heiress's money, he'd be nothing. A man who sells his ass deserves to be looked down on for the rest of his life. The speaker was Trent Crawford, the young chairman of Summit Enterprises and a major player in the tech industry. Unlike other men who feared Lilith, he had fallen for her at first sight. Now, to be losing market share to this upstart Jax, and to know he was the one warming Lilith's bed, was infuriating. Luckily, he had just signed the biggest name in sports, the beautiful race car driver Skyler Pierce. He knew she was Jax's third sister and that the family was at war. She was the perfect tool to crush him. Trent's gaze, dark and obsessive, fixed on the entrance. Lily, my. Quinn Vanderbilt thought, taking a sip of her champagne. This one has a death wish. For a woman like Quinn Vanderbilt, this little drama was just a bit of evening entertainment. She didn't intervene, content to sip her wine and watch the show. Her gaze, however, kept drifting toward the entrance, as if she were waiting for someone. Today was Susanna Sinclair Astor's birthday, but the real star of the show, as always, would be Lilith Astor. It was a simple fact. Wherever Lily went, she was the undisputed center of the universe. Soon, a ripple of commotion came from the grand entrance, followed by a silence so profound you could hear a pin drop. The only sound in the vast hall was the sharp, rhythmic click-clack of high heels on marble. Click, clack, click, clack. It was a sound like a death knell played as a symphony. Lily Astor glided into the birthday party, her expression a mask of cool indifference. An invisible barrier of sheer, unapproachable coldness radiated from her, warning everyone to keep their distance. Her upturned eyes, the color of winter ice, held a regal chill that was beyond words. She wore a moon-white cheongsam that was both elegant and imposing, its severe lines somehow emphasizing her startling beauty. Her long hair was swept up in an intricate bun, pierced by a single blood-red hairpin. The pearl at its tip was the color of freshly spilled blood, a priceless treasure that was nonetheless a mere footnote to the woman wearing it. No jewel, no matter how rare, could ever outshine Lily. She was too beautiful. Her brand of cold, domineering beauty was one that people didn't dare to look at directly, and her figure was incendiary. The cheongsam clung to every curve, outlining a silhouette so perfect that no artist would dare to draw it, for fear of being accused of exaggeration. Trent Crawford was already captivated. He had made the pursuit of Lilith Astor his life's mission, yet now, watching her approach, he found himself rooted to the spot, unable to take a single step forward. Her presence was a force of nature that made him acutely aware of his own inadequacy. But there was someone in the room even more humble than him. Sam Cole. The same Sam Cole who had been unceremoniously handed over to Lily by his savior of a best friend, Jax, to be driven to the party. The young man looked painfully out of place, his expression a mixture of awe and raw, undiluted survival instinct. He trailed a few steps behind Lily, his back practically bent in a bow of deference. Ms. Astor, he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. Jax. Jax really did have something urgent to take care of, but he told me to tell you he has a huge surprise planned for you. You. Lily's icy gaze flickered over to Sam. Sam immediately clamped his mouth shut. In that single instant, the hair on his arms stood on end. He had the distinct feeling that if he uttered one more word, he would be toast. Noisy, Lily murmured, her mood souring. She and Jax had been on their way to the party together when some minor business matter had forced him to pull over and deal with it, leaving her in the car. It's not like I care, she told herself. It was a good thing Jax was busy with work. A man needed ambition. But, for her man, his only ambition should be to stay by her side. Unfortunately, Jax wasn't that kind of man, and Lily had no choice but to swallow her irritation, a quiet storm of anger brewing just beneath the surface. Right away, boss, Nathan materialized at her side, the picture of efficiency. I'll just go and remove his tongue. Lily shot him a withering look. Go find a corner and cool off. Nathan thought to himself. No place is cooler than right next to the boss. She's the kind of person who could wear a down jacket in a heat wave. He's Jax's friend, Lily said. That one sentence was enough to guarantee Sam Cole a lifetime of comfort and the ability to walk through New York City with his head held high. Unfortunately, the current Sam Cole had no such awareness. Yes, my apologies, I overstepped, he mumbled, continuing to follow Lily like a nervous shadow. His eyes scanned the room until they snagged on a figure in the distance, a woman in a flowing white dress, radiating a gentle, noble grace. Isabelle Croft. She was his goddess. Just the sight of her silhouette was enough to capture his entire attention. But Isabelle, while not as lethally unapproachable as Lily Astor, was still so far out of his league that he could climb for 1,000 lifetimes and never reach her. He admired her, adored her even, but he dutifully suppressed the tremor of excitement in his heart. A man like him, who had nothing to his name except the millions that Jax and Lily had gifted him, was nothing. The fortune he was so proud of was probably worth less than the jewelry Isabelle wore to a single event. He was a nobody. How could he dare to dream of dragging down an angel? Sam quickly averted his gaze. Isabelle had only been kind to him because of Lily. He couldn't let it go to his head. If he started thinking he was someone special, he'd just end up embarrassing Jax. With that thought, Sam even tried to shift to Lily's other side, hoping to hide from Isabelle's view and avoid any further contact. Some people were the moon in the sky, beautiful but not to be plucked. He was lucky enough to have even seen her. Oh, Sam, how's your injury? Isabelle's gentle voice cut through the air. Her eyes found his, and for some reason, Sam saw a flicker of loneliness in their soft depths. Why did you suddenly transfer hospitals? Was I not taking good enough care of you these past few days? Sam felt a nerve in his brain snap taut. The tips of his ears burned crimson. Isabelle. Ms. Croft, I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I just had something to take care of, and it was more convenient to be at a different hospital. Of course, the different hospital was a much cheaper one. A public hospital that a star like Isabelle wouldn't dare set foot in, and one that wouldn't rack up such enormous bills. Jax had told him the company would cover everything, and Lily had paid for his entire hospital stay, but Jax had already done so much for him, and Lily owed him nothing. On top of that, Isabelle's sudden kindness was unsettling. He didn't want to think the worst, but Kira was a cautionary tale. He didn't dare accept another ounce of Isabelle's charity. He was also afraid he might use her to get over his heartbreak, subconsciously comparing her to Kira to satisfy his own pathetic vanity. That would be terribly unfair to any woman. To Isabelle, it would be an insult, and he didn't deserve that kind of special treatment, even if it was just a perk of being associated with Lily Astor. Sam Cole had his principles. Sam, are you avoiding me? Isabelle, ethereal in her elegant white gown, took a step closer. Her crescent moon eyes shimmered with a clear, brilliant light, locking onto Sam's panicked gaze. Sam, you just went through a bad breakup. I was taking care of you. Are you afraid that because of my kindness you might start to depend on me? Isabelle spoke with the unshakable confidence of her station. She was an A-list superstar, bathed in the halo of fame. Even in an ultra-exclusive high society event like this, she belonged, and people gave her due respect, a testament to her character and her power. Sam stood frozen. He was genuinely attracted to stunning women like Isabelle. She was, after all, his one and only goddess. But was he worthy? I'm sorry, Ms. Croft. I'm afraid I won't be able to control myself, he finally said, his voice raw with honesty. You're too kind, too beautiful. You're everything I could ever imagine in a girlfriend, a wife. But I'm a grown man now. I have to know the difference between fantasy and reality. I could work my whole life and never achieve what you have. A useless man like me should just disappear from your world. Ms. Croft, you should get back to your friends. I have to. Sam's words tumbled out in a sincere, flustered rush. He was about to turn and flee, but the next second he felt a firm grip on his wrist. Isabelle had pulled him behind a nearby, secluded trellis of white roses. Suddenly, the pure, gentle roses seemed to have sprouted thorns. Isabelle's lithe, slender body pressed against his, the undeniable curves of her figure making his breath catch in his throat. A thrilling, dangerous light entered Isabelle's clear, soft eyes, forcing Sam to look away. Sam, she purred, her voice a low, seductive whisper. What if I find you pure and adorable? What if I genuinely want to corrupt you? Would you dare to take that step from me? Isabelle's sudden question hung in the air. A turbulent, unsettling energy seemed to coil in her clear eyes, shattering her gentle aura and leaving behind a thorny, sharp-edged core. Sam was speechless. He was in disbelief. Even without deluding himself, he had to consciously fight to control the part of him that was spinning out of control from her casual question. I'm sorry, Ms. Croft. I'm not good enough for you. Besides, he didn't need pity. He had been cheated on, brutally, and soon the whole world would know he was the green hat guy whose girlfriend had left him for another man. What would follow was inevitable. Vicious rumors and slander from on and off campus, and even worse, pity. He was already drowning in that vortex. He couldn't bear to drag anyone else into it. Sam's voice was strained. He truly didn't know if Isabelle was joking. His fingers clenched into tight fists, knuckles white, veins bulging. In the end, he snuffed out his own fantasy with his own words. He refused to be the joker from some tragedy again. When you have nothing, anyone can betray you. He could be a fool once, but not forever. Kira's betrayal had wounded him too deeply. When it came to relationships, he no longer dared to give his all. Sam struggled frantically, trying to get away. But this time, the warm, gentle light in Isabelle's eyes slowly shifted into something strange. The gentle facade seemed to rip apart. Her eyes became a deep, dark river, swirling with hidden currents and dangerous undercurrents. A slow smile spread across her lips. She reached out and decisively cupped his chin, her grip firm. She was a striking beauty, and though she often appeared gentle and noble, she was tall and moved with a commanding presence. Even as an actress, navigating the world of fame and fortune, no one dared to underestimate her. Sam, you're not being a good boy. Her voice was a silken threat. I heard from my Aunt Lily. That Jax Pierce is your brother? He wasn't so obedient to my aunt at the beginning, either. Isabelle's smile turned positively wicked. A sudden chill shot down Sam's spine. What did you just call Miss Astor? You're AUNT. Doesn't that mean, if I actually got with Isabelle, I'd have to call Jax? Uncle Jax, holy crap. This wasn't just about who was whose daddy anymore. But then again, Lily Astor's seniority in the family was truly off the charts. Sam's expression immediately turned dead serious. Ms. Croft, since you're related to Ms. Astor, you should know that you and I are impossible, he said earnestly. Technically, I'm in the same generation as you are. Ahem, your uncle-in-law. If we got together, everything would be a mess. No way. Absolutely not. Sam shook his head frantically. Dropping down a generation was out of the question. He had already condescended to call Jax bro, even though Jax was a few months younger than him. Calling him uncle for the rest of his life? That living nightmare of a bro could forget it. No matter how beautiful the goddess was, no matter how much she pursued him, he couldn't let beauty compromise his principles. Isabelle stared at him. Is that really the point? Isn't the point that I've taken a liking to this lovable idiot? And his main concern is whether or not he has to call Jax Pierce uncle? It seemed the person living in Sam's heart wasn't Kira at all. It was clearly Jax Pierce. Outside Jadevine Manor, in the back of a luxury town car, Skyler Pierce was making a final adjustment to her appearance. As the newly returned goddess of the racing world, she had deliberately planned to be the last to arrive, ensuring she would crush all the A-list actresses in attendance. Skyler, this couture gown was a real coup, her manager Jean cooed. Only one person has worn it on its global debut. You're the second. That's a special honor. All right. I know it's a bit of a step down for me, Skyler said, feigning humility. But after all, while I have an international profile, my fame back home isn't quite at the level of the top actresses yet. Especially Isabelle Croft. With her status, all the major couture brands send their pieces to her first. We get the leftovers. That's the gap. But don't you worry, Jean continued, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction at Skyler's stunning figure in the dress. I pull a lot of strings to have this flown in from South Korea. It's understated but luxurious, perfect for this kind of event. You won't upstage the host, but you'll still show off your superior status. Skyler smirked. Manager Jean, please. With my looks, I have few rivals in Hollywood, let alone at a high society party like this. Even among the debutantes, I stand out. And as for the CEOs, TSK, they didn't make a living off their faces, after all. Okay. I know you're gorgeous, Jean said, placating her. But don't get too cocky. There's always someone better. The time was right. Skyler didn't delay any longer, sweeping out of the car and toward the manor entrance. Ma'am, invitation please. A security guard stopped her at the door. Standard procedure for a high-profile event. Skyler coolly presented her invitation. A minute passed. Skyler grew impatient. 3 minutes. Is there a problem with my invitation, officer? She asked, her smile strained. Mr. Sinclair himself invited me. You should look carefully. You wouldn't want to disrespect the host's hospitality to his honored guests, would you? The words were polite, but the implication was a dagger. Apologies, Ms. Pierce, the guard said, his own smile a thin, unconvincing line. His eyes, now filled with a strange disdain, raked over her. This invitation appears to show signs of forgery. We're having an expert verify it. If you'll just wait. Skyler had never been so humiliated, but turning back now would be even more mortifying. Just as she was about to lose her temper, the guard's face suddenly transformed into a fawning, eager smile. You're finally here, sir, he exclaimed, looking past her. Men, get over here and welcome Mr. P. Skyler lifted her chin arrogantly. This was more like it. This was the treatment a top-tier star deserved. She took a step forward, only to see 10 uniformed guards rush past her, forming a stern, respectful honor guard for a figure who had just arrived behind her. Skyler Pierce. She was Skyler Pierce. Wherever she went, she was the center of attention. How dare they treat her like she was invisible? Gritting her teeth so hard they might crack, she spun around. Who in the hell has an entourage this big? The word died on her lips. Standing there was Jax, clad in an impeccably tailored suit. He looked taller, straighter, his presence as coolly powerful as the moon. He was so handsome, it was like he'd been completely reborn. Could that be Jax? It had to be. Mr. Pierce, your presence brings light to our humble home, the head of security gushed. Mrs. Astor specifically instructed that upon your arrival, we were to greet you with a cannon salute to show her approval of you as her son-in-law. Jax blinked. A cannon salute? What was his mother-in-law up to now? Still, the over-the-top style had a familiar ring to it. Leo Astor. Like mother, like son. Jax. Skyler's voice was a shocked whisper. What are you standing there for like an idiot? Get over here and escort your third sister into Jadevine Manor. Mr. Sinclair personally invited me, and these lowlives are blocking my way. Since you can get in, I'll graciously allow you to accompany me as my +1. She was momentarily stunned by his transformation, but the memory of his cursed origins and pathetic past quickly soured her mood. She beckoned to him with practiced ease, expecting him to scurry over and serve her as he always had. "Hurry up. If you make me late, can you take responsibility?" she demanded, her chin high, her expression one of arrogant disdain. But things are different now. "Who's this crazy hack?" Jax's voice was quiet, but it cut through the air like a shard of ice. "Old, ugly, and wearing a cheap knockoff." He clicked his tongue. TSK. How the Sinclair family standards really dropped this low. 3 short sentences. For Skyler Pierce, they were a fatal blow. "Jax, have you lost your mind?" Skyler hissed, her face contorted with rage. This couture gown was just flown in from South Korea, brand new. If you don't know anything about fashion, don't show off your own pathetic taste just to pick a fight with me. "I know you," she sneered. "What do you know about fashion, let alone how to spot a fake?" Jax shrugged. He really didn't know much about high fashion gowns. But he had seen his wife's closet, a space the size of a football field, meticulously organized. And among the countless dresses he'd glimpsed, he had happened to see this exact one. Furthermore, when Lily wore a couture piece, it was usually a one-of-kind, global exclusive. After she wore a top design once without expressing a desire to keep it, it would either be bought by a collector for a sky-high price and put in a museum or destroyed. Lily was intensely possessive. She loathed the idea of anyone else owning something she had touched. So, she had Mr. Sterling build her an entirely new wardrobe just to store the dresses she'd worn. And when Lily was in a bad mood, she had a habit of personally tearing her dresses to shreds, delighting in the sound of beads scattering and silk ripping. It was a pathological possessiveness. But she, of all people, deserved such extravagance, such abandon. "I don't know much," Jack said, his voice level, "but I've seen someone wear this dress before. The texture, the stitching, the layering of the design on the real one. It's a world apart from the cheap knockoff you're wearing." He paused, his gaze flat. "Skyler, it's been 3 months. How have you managed to become even more pathetic?" Another dagger to her pride, yet Jax delivered it without a flicker of emotion. He just stood there, calm and detached, watching as Skyler's entire world crumbled. "Jax, stop making things up," she shot back, though a seed of doubt was already taking root in her heart. "I've eaten more salt than you've walked roads. How could I possibly be wrong?" But she couldn't let the outsiders see her crack. She had to stand her ground, to fight back. She was used to dominating Jax. She needed to put him in his place to reassert her own status, especially in front of these guards who were looking down their noses at her. "Ma'am," the security guard chimed in, his tone painfully sincere. "We could also tell your gown is a fake. That particular piece is a global exclusive. There's only one. And unfortunately for you, someone is already wearing it inside today. If you go in, you'll only be humiliating yourself." Skyler felt like she was about to shatter. "What's all this commotion at the door?" a voice called out. It was Warren Sinclair, Lily's uncle. "The party is about to start. Let them in." He glanced at Jax. The young man was undeniably handsome, with a solid build that made the preening pretty boys of Hollywood look like children. It was no wonder his discerning niece had taken a liking to him. Jax didn't spare Skyler another glance, but a dark glint flashed in his eyes before disappearing. Inside the manor, Lily was sitting on a floral swing, a 20-meter-wide circle of empty space around her. No one dared to approach. The only exception was Quinn Vanderbilt, who was casually swirling a glass of wine about 10 meters away. The rest of them didn't have the guts. Trent Crawford was wrestling with himself, trying to decide whether to approach Lily again, when a tall, imposing figure strode through the entrance. The young man carried himself with a straight-back posture of a pine tree, his features sharp and cool. He was walking straight toward Lily, straight into the death circle that surrounded her. Lily looked up. She ignored everyone else in the room. In that moment, it felt as if a ray of light had finally broken through the suffocating dullness of the party. She couldn't help it. The words came out in an unconscious, petulant pout. "Husband, what took you so long?" The entire room went silent. Did a ghost just start whining like a spoiled child? In an instant, every eye in the room followed Lily's as she stood up, their gazes locking onto the approaching Jax. The young man's bearing was impeccable, his handsomeness effortless. "Lily, I'm sorry. I kept you waiting." Jax walked forward, his posture confident and direct. He showed none of the fawning deference that almost everyone else displayed in Lily's presence. With a natural ease that sent shivers down everyone's spines, he placed a hand lightly on the small of her back. A collective gasp went through the crowd. "Holy hell, does this boy toy have a death wish?" That's Lily Astor, the boss, the most notorious monster in all of New York City. And he dared to call her Lily? He was practically begging for an early grave. But then they saw Lily's reaction to Jax's touch, and the scene became even more surreal. Jax, your presence here is an honor for this party, she said, her voice softening. Come on, I don't think my uncle will dare to start dinner without you. Lily's hair was elegantly coiffed, her posture radiating a quiet authority that was potent even when she was still. Anyone else standing next to her would have faded into the background, a mere accessory. But Jax stood his ground, meeting her presence with an unbowed calm. They looked surprisingly well matched, a perfect picture of a powerful woman and her beautiful man. Hearing his name, Warren Sinclair felt a certain part of his anatomy clench. He hurried over, his earlier impatience gone, replaced by a sycophantic grin aimed at Jax. Yes, we were all waiting for you, Jax. My niece here just loves to joke around with her old uncle. I was just waiting for all the family to arrive before we started. We're all family here, after all. He turned to Lily. All right, Lily, your mother is waiting for you over there. Why don't you take Jax up a chat with her for a bit? She's the guest of honor tonight, and she's missed you terribly. Lily's lips thinned, a dark shadow passing through her eyes. If she hasn't gone completely insane, she probably wants me dead. So, in a way, he wasn't wrong. I'm not going, she stated flatly. Jax will sit with me. Uncle, you should get back to your duties. It's not appropriate for the host to be standing here like this. It was rare for Lily to be so talkative. Jax didn't often attend these kinds of events, and this was, for all intents and purposes, her family's territory. Bringing him here felt strangely like showing off her new husband to the relatives. The feeling was novel, and it sparked a flicker of warmth in her chest. Jax, she said, her voice softening further, is everything taken care of? Did it go smoothly? Do I need to step in? The question was unsaid, but understood. Jax didn't want her interfering with his budding business ventures, and she had obediently stayed out of it. But if that business was making Jax unhappy, she could wave her hand and sweep away any obstacle in his path. In her eyes, she had simply let her little boy go play in the sandbox. If another kid in the kindergarten dared to bully him, she would not be reasonable. It went very smoothly, he assured her. Lily, you look beautiful tonight. The blood jade suits your complexion. I just don't know if my gift can add to your beauty. Jax sounded almost hesitant. The stares from the crowd, though not bold, were constant, driven by an insatiable curiosity about Lily Astor and her pretty boy. Look at him. The second he latches on a Ms. Astor, he's a different person. Probably used her money to buy her a gift to keep her happy. What a freeloader. He gets all the good stuff. Careful what you say. This Jax Pierce is a force to be reckoned with. He's moving fast in the tech world. He might not be worth trillions like some of the people here, but he's a rising star with a bright future. I wonder if he got that incredible foresight from Ms. Astor's guidance, or if he figured it out himself. Either way, he's not just a boy toy. That's right. JX Innovations has signed several influencers who've gone viral recently. Just their income from influencers is probably in the millions per month. And as the capital behind it, JX Innovations can't be underestimated. I heard their influencers are starting to do live stream shopping. That kind of direct-to-market conversion model. It's brilliant. I bet the future of the influencer economy will eventually shift to live stream sales. Many of the guests were shrewd operators. They weren't about to stay silent just to appease Trent Crawford. Their admiration for Jax was plain to see. Of course, some of the tycoons present had recently been visitors to a certain mercenary compound and had seen firsthand how protective Lily was of Jax. Whether Jax was living off her or not, he was destined to be a major player in New York City. If you weren't sucking up to him, who would you suck up to? And yet, there were always clueless fools who would paint green paint on an old cucumber and pretend they were young and fresh. They dared to approach the two titans. Jax pulled a bracelet from his pocket. It was a string of pigeon's blood rubies, each stone glittering with a deep crimson light. The rich, blood-like color was a stunning contrast against a woman's pale skin, a beautiful sight that was hard to look away from. Lily, I've been wanting to get you another gift ever since you lost the pink diamond ring, he said, his voice low and sincere. I know you don't need anything. No jewel in this world is precious enough for someone as wonderful as you. But as a man, the first thing you do when you make money is buy a gift for your wife to make my baby happy. He held out the bracelet. I bought this with the recent profits from JX Innovations. Do you like it, Lily? Jax looked down, clutching the bracelet. Pigeon's blood rubies were astronomically expensive. The old Jax would have considered even looking at one a luxury. But now that he had taken the seed money Lily gave him and multiplied it many times over, he couldn't forget his roots. Today might be his mother-in-law's birthday, but every day could be an anniversary of his love for Lily. So what if he was upstaging the host? If Lily liked it, he would do anything, get anything, to see her smile. Lily was stunned. She hadn't expected another gift. Her demand for Jax were actually very small. She didn't need him to dote on her like a typical husband. All she wanted was for him to not run away, to stay by her side. That was her only wish. But what Jax was giving her now was so much more. It was genuine affection, the constant love of a husband for his wife. "I love it," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. The tip of her nose tingled, and she fought back the urge to cry. A storm of emotion churned in her usually placid eyes. "I love Jax so much." Right now, she wanted to devour him, to possess him completely. But she couldn't. Jax was too shy. It would scare him away. So Lily knitted her brow, fighting with all her might against the impulse to unbutton his shirt, one by one, like unwrapping a present. She held out her wrist and nodded. A brilliant light sparked in Jax's eyes. He was about to place the bracelet on her wrist. Suddenly, a hand shot out and clamped down on his. "Jax, where did you get that pigeon's blood ruby bracelet? Did you steal Mom's jewelry again? Jax, you really are a dog who can't stop eating shit." Skyler had just entered the main hall, expecting to be the center of attention. Instead, she found every eye fixed on this country bumpkin, Jax. She had heard rumors back in Europe that he was a changed man, that he was riding the coattails of that monster of an heiress who was probably going to die any day now. He had taken her money to start his own company. Jax was just a college kid. If it weren't for the fact that everyone in the business world was afraid of the Astor family, what could a pissant like him possibly achieve? It was all because of a woman. He was just a kept man. The one thing Skyler Pierce despised most in this world was a man who lived off a woman, a gold digger. Caleb was so much better. He relied on himself, was sensible and poised, and carried himself with the natural grace and nobility of an upper-class gentleman. She could take Caleb to any important event, and he would fit in perfectly. Compared to the kept man Jax, who was still hiding behind a woman's skirts, Caleb was 1,000 times better. Her pre-existing prejudice, combined with the sight of the familiar-looking ruby bracelet, ignited her temper. That was clearly her mother's bracelet, and Jax was using it to suck up to the monster heiress? He wasn't just a country bumpkin anymore. He was a thief and a robber. In a flash of fury, Skyler rushed to Jax's side, her hand shooting out to snatch the bracelet that rightfully belonged to her mother. But Jax was faster. He pulled his hand back, his eyes locking on Skyler's aggressive face. Back in the Pierce household, he had had the least contact with his third sister, Skyler, but he had always felt her malice and prejudice. Even so, the younger Jax, desperate for any scrap of familial affection, had tried his best to be good to her. This had only reinforced Skyler's habit of finding fault with him and demanding he do her bidding. The moment Skyler appeared, and especially when she dared to covet the bracelet Jax had prepared for her, a murderous aura exploded from Lily. She moved to stand in front of Jax, looking down at Skyler from her superior height. Lily's natural height advantage gave her a commanding, oppressive presence. Skyler, who prided herself on her face, was acutely sensitive about her height. At only 5'3", even in heels, she felt crushed under Lily's gaze. "Do you want to die, go crazy, or be buried?" Lily's voice was calm, her cold eyes sweeping over Skyler's gown, her expression turning intrigued. "So, you're Jax's estranged third sister, Skyler Pierce. You, too, can choose your own end at any time." Lily smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. This wasn't the first time Skyler had seen Lily Astor, but it was the first time she had been so close to death, to hell itself. Even Skyler, who considered herself a goddess in the worlds of racing and entertainment, felt like a common maid in Lily's presence. Ms. Astor, I meant no offense to you," she stammered. "Jax is my biological brother. His theft of our mother's property is a failure of our family's discipline. A matter of character this serious must be dealt with firmly. My harsh words are just an expression of my love for my brother." She continued, her voice gaining confidence. "As Jax's wife, you certainly have the right to manage him. But his own family also has a responsibility to ensure the quality and character of the son who married into the Astor family." Skyler could see how protective Lily was of Jax. She was, of course, afraid of Lily. But since Lily treated Jax like a treasure, then, as his older sister, what did she have to fear? Buoyed by her status as the sister-in-law, Skyler adopted a subtly superior, almost parental tone with Lily. She didn't dare claim the title outright, but the subtext was clear. In her words, treating Jax like a product whose quality needed to be guaranteed, were dripping with malice. No real family member would ever objectify their own kin like that. In truth, Skyler had never once considered Jax a brother. Lily's brow furrowed. She was about to raise her hand to signal Nathan, who was already on high alert. But just as she was about to move, Isabelle Croft appeared at the front lines of the conflict, dragging Sam along with her. The usually gentle and noble actress had an icy expression, her eyes filled with scorn. "Oh, is that so?" Isabelle's voice cut through the tension. "As far as I know, my uncle-in-law here isn't even a Pierce anymore. So what right do you have to talk about discipline, Miss Pierce? If you want to discipline someone, why don't you start with the person who put you in that fake couture? To be so shameless as to wear that to an event like this. And you have the nerve to call yourself a racing goddess." She sneered. "No wonder you can't tell one gemstone from another. With eyes that blind, if I were you, I'd find a hole and bury myself in it." Isabelle stepped forward. Her dazzling beauty, combined with the pure white couture gown, created a devastating contrast. It only took one glance for everyone to realize. Skyler's gown and Isabelle's were the exact same design, and the difference between a genuine couture piece and a cheap knockoff was immediately, painfully obvious. The moment Isabelle appeared, Skyler froze. As someone who straddled the worlds of sports and entertainment, she knew the rules. Wearing the same dress as another celebrity was already a major faux pas, a catalyst for endless comparisons. Stars were obsessed with their looks and figures. But now, Skyler was standing there in a shoddy, low-quality fake, while Isabelle wore the genuine article, radiating an elegance that could outshine the sun and moon. Next to Isabelle, Skyler felt small and insecure. You, how can my dress not be real couture?" Skyler was trapped in a cognitive loop, staring at Isabelle in disbelief. Her gaze then fell on Sam, whose hand was still clutched by the actress. She recognized him. Jax's dirt-poor best friend. Had he managed to land on his feet too? It was a gathering of kept men and gold diggers. The disdain in her eyes deepened. Isabelle scoffed. "This gown is a global exclusive. One of one. The first person in the world to wear was my aunt, Lily. Even I'm just wearing my aunt's hand-me-downs. And you have the audacity to show up in a fake to upstage the host? Skyler, with a brain like yours, do you even deserve to play in the big leagues in this country?" Isabelle was, after all, an A-list star. She could be gentle, but if you crossed her, she could be so formidable she'd make your legs tremble. Copying my girl Isabelle's style, wearing a fake. "This is going to be great tabloid fodder," Sam chimed in, not missing a chance to twist a knife. As Isabelle's most loyal fan, he'd spent countless hours on burner accounts fighting her online trolls. On a busy night, he could juggle dozens of accounts to battle the haters. Even the most hardened keyboard warriors would have to call him master. For a celebrity, their work was important, but so were event appearances and magazine covers. It directly affected their commercial value. Brands judged an endorsement's worth based on these things. Skyler had just returned to the country with a trophy, and should have been basking in glory, signing lucrative endorsement deals that would earn her more money than most people see in a lifetime. But now, this single incident, wearing a fake, was a cheap move that damaged a brand's image. For her, and for the major brands, she had just lost her ticket to endorsing top-tier luxury. Skyler couldn't accept that her career was facing such a devastating blow before it had even begun. Her composure finally cracked. "Sam Cole, you're a kept man? Who are you to criticize me?" Isabelle's smile vanished. "Skyler, who said he's a kept man? Sam hasn't even agreed to be with me yet. But when he does, you'll be the first person I invite to dinner. I promise it will be as lavish as a last meal." Sam was stunned by Isabelle's words. He had been playing along, but deep down, he knew there was no real possibility between them. A woman like Isabelle was probably just intrigued by a nice guy, like him, who'd been so thoroughly humiliated, a pathetic project. Women often had a savior complex, a need to rescue a fallen man from the depths of despair. He'd seen it before. Men did it too, always wanting to save a woman from a difficult life, to be a hero. But that wasn't love. Sam had been in a real relationship. He knew the difference. Isabelle's kindness felt like curiosity, a reaction to encountering someone as pathetic as he was. She could afford to play around, to indulge this savior fantasy. But he couldn't. He was truly unworthy of her and had no right to waste her time. Still, in the heat of the moment, he had to play his part. Besides, he genuinely wanted to knock Skyler down a few pegs. Anyone who bullied Jax was his enemy, and if he had the power, he would grind her arrogant face into the dust. "Isabelle, I don't think Ms. Pierce will have time for dinner," Sam said, his tone dripping with mock sympathy. "The gown you're wearing is for Maison Valois' couture runway show. The Valois Group is a French blue blood brand that only serves top-tier conglomerates, aristocrats, and socialites. Any celebrity who wants to wear their couture has to be personally selected by the brand just for the privilege of wearing it at a social event. And Ms. Pierce not only wore it, but she wore a fake. That's likely damaged the Valois brand's image. I'm sure a cease and desist is already on its way, he continued, a cruel smile playing on his lips. Congratulations, Ms. Skyler Pierce. You just got back to the country, and you're already so busy. You truly are a big star. Sam's sarcastic takedown was a release of all the frustration he'd felt watching the Pierces treat Jax like an errand boy. Jax was a person, a caring and loyal family member. And what had he gotten for it? If Sam ever got the chance, he would make damn sure Skyler Pierce knew what it felt like to be betrayed and abused by the people she trusted most. The tycoons in the room, all shrewd operators, understood the implications of Sam's words. For him to say it out loud, in a high society setting where things were usually left unsaid, was like dropping a bomb. So that's Skyler Pierce? She's supposedly a big deal in the international racing circuit. But at the end of the day, she's just a promotional tool. Now that she's offended a global blue blood brand, TSK, she can probably kiss any major couture endorsements goodbye. Her value just plummeted. TSK. Of all the people to provoke, she chose Jax Pierce. So what if she's his sister? I saw that court live stream. Are any of the Pierces good people? Just a bunch of dogs biting each other. Looks like Skyler Pierce's commercial value is toast. I heard the tech mogul Trent Crawford just signed her for a huge sum. This is a classic case of a business venture dying before it even got started. Across the room, Trent Crawford had been observing the situation. He had indeed signed Skyler and was about to launch a massive campaign to push her as the new top-tier beauty of the racing world. For a giant like his company, Summit Enterprises, which dominated the tech market, creating a new star was easy. But now, Skyler had proven to be so disappointing. She caused a scandal the moment she got back. Who could have possibly derailed his star-making plan so quickly and so cleverly that even a savvy veteran like Skyler had walked right into the trap? The thought sent a chill down Trent's spine. His eyes slowly scanned the room, finally landing on Jax Pierce, who stood there with an air of calm elegance. The young man's gaze met his. Trent felt his blood run cold. It was him. The moment their eyes locked, an icy dread washed over him. They were all sharks who had fought their way through the brutal world of business. A small-time entrepreneur like Jax should have been easy prey, swallowed up and forgotten. But not only had he survived the storm, he was steadily swimming against the current. For an industry titan like Trent, a newcomer like that was the most dangerous kind. Until now, Trent had looked down on Jax, considering him beneath his notice. But in just a few short months, the tech market, always volatile, had shifted. Jax had achieved a growth rate that Trent himself had never managed in his early days. If he continued on this trajectory, Jax's JX innovations would inevitably challenge Summit Enterprises for dominance. In the future, would they be rivals, or would one devour the other? No one could say. From this moment on, if Trent was smart, he had to treat Jax as a serious competitor. But just as he was starting to take this little ant seriously, the ant had already marched up to him and bitten him, catching him completely off guard. Fortunately, Trent wasn't a coward. He had real power and had earned his position. In that moment, he wisely chose not to step forward himself. He had his assistant find an unfamiliar waiter and instructed them to accidentally spill red wine on Skyler's dress. It was a classic move to end the embarrassing scene. Even though Skyler had made a fool of herself and her high-end commercial value was shot, her true power lay in her racing career. He had bet on that talent, and the game wasn't over yet. For now, he had to save her. Skyler also realized this. Someone had set her up, and that someone was very likely Jax. Her eyes darted around, her expression shifting to one of panic and helplessness. What? She stammered, turning to Isabelle. Ms. Croft, I'm just a professional racer. I know very little about the fashion world or Hollywood. I had no idea someone was trying to frame me with this dress. I never intended to offend the Valois Group. I apologize for wearing the same design and for mistakenly wearing a low-quality imitation. I will get to the bottom of this, and I will compensate the Valois Group for any damages to their brand image. I am so sorry. You are incredible, Ms. Croft. To have coincidentally worn the genuine couture gown today and so thoroughly put a little racer like me, just back in the country, in her place. Skyler's quick thinking was impressive. She knew she could only do so much to salvage the situation. Her public image was inevitably tarnished. But by admitting her mistake, declaring her innocence, and, offering to make amends, she could minimize the damage. Instead of a hysterical breakdown, she took responsibility. It was a move designed to win sympathy. Most of the tycoons in the room didn't care about such trivial matters. The commercial value of an actress was of little concern to them. But Isabelle Croft was different. She was not only related to Lily Astor, but was also on good terms with her. That alone was enough to elevate her status far above any mere actress. She was one of them. Now, after her apology, Skyler had deliberately added that line about how Isabelle had coincidentally worn the real dress. The words were ambiguous, but the shrewd minds in the room understood the deeper meaning. Skyler was pointing a finger, suggesting that the person responsible for her humiliation and the loss of her commercial value was Isabelle Croft herself. Isabelle was already a firmly established A-list star. For her to bully a rising star from the sports world was, in its own way, a cheap shot. And by calling herself a little racer, Skyler was distancing herself from the worlds of fashion and entertainment, drawing a clear line between herself and Isabelle. The subtext was, "I'm not even your competitor, yet you cruelly targeted me. I'm the innocent victim here." In just a few sentences, she had masterfully positioned herself as the wrong party, casting Isabelle as the villain who had premeditated her downfall. It was a brilliant move, but the master strategists in the room, for all their cunning, ultimately only looked to one person for their cues. "Yes, my niece certainly did put you in your place." Lily's voice cut through the air, sharp and clear. "That's a fact. Your praise is very accurate. Should I give you $1 for your trouble?" Lily's gaze was imperious. She didn't care about couture gowns. With her figure, she could wear anything and make it look good. She was a natural clothes horse. She had so many couture gowns that when her niece Isabelle asked for a few to wear on the red carpet, she had waved her hand and let her take whatever she wanted. It was a small favor, but it was a privilege that no other actress, not even the top-tier ones, could ever dream of. Now, hearing Skyler's passive-aggressive words, Lily's natural temper flared. If it were up to her, Skyler wouldn't see another sunrise. Tomorrow, she and her beloved race car would be a mangled wreck at the bottom of some treacherous cliff. Her body would be torn apart by wild dogs and wolves. But she was Jax's third sister, and even though Jax was cold to his family now, Lily didn't dare to lay a hand on them herself. She could only help him from the shadows. She couldn't bear the possibility that if she harmed his family, he would use it as an excuse to leave her. Before, she had wanted to get close to his sisters, to meet his family, to be a dutiful daughter-in-law. Her own family had never given her the love she craved, and she had hoped to find it in his. She could have been a good wife to him, but Jax had forbidden her from getting close to them. When she had tried to give his sisters shares in the Astor family business as a meeting gift, hoping to please him, he had furiously refused, tearing up the contract she had drawn up. That was the time he had looked at her with a complex mixture of hatred and something else. "Lily, what the hell are you trying to do? My family will never be your family. Get that idea out of your head. Don't you dare try to buy them behind my back. If you do, I'll set myself on fire. All you'll have left of me is a pile of ashes." When Jax got desperate, he didn't care about his own life. And that was Lily's Achilles heel. She could die herself, but she couldn't bear for him to suffer even the slightest harm. "Fine," she had said. "I promise I won't go near your family, and I won't hurt them." "But Jax, what if they hurt you?" Lily was no saint. She looked at the Pierces with the eyes of a villain and saw clearly how they exploited her Jax. But if she made a single move, he would cause a scene. So, gradually, she had learned to ignore them. "That's our family's business," he had retorted. "Lily, you will never be my family. I won't let you interfere in my relationship with my sisters. The 5 of them may be cold, but we are connected by blood. If there's any hurt, it's our business to deal with. It's not for an outsider like you to meddle in. Lily, don't touch them. They are my life." His words, his aggressive attitude, the way he had warned her with such ferocity. In his eyes, he was making a life-or-death deal with a monster to protect his sisters. But in Lily's eyes, though she was wary, her gaze couldn't help but roam over his strong, lean body. His defiance is actually quite arousing. "Jax, what's in it for me if I agree?" she had purred, stepping closer, her power undiminished by his threats. The one thing that truly annoyed her was that in his eyes, his sisters were more important than her. She wanted to skin them alive, to rip out their hearts. But Jax would cry. He would be scared. So she had let it go. "Jax, you know what I like best?" she whispered, her voice a low, silken command. "Take off your pants and go lie down. Then I'll agree to it." Faced with her blunt, shocking demand, Jax had stared at her in disbelief, his cool eyes turning crimson. "Lily, we just did it last night." The tips of his ears had gone red. His eyes widened in shock at her insatiable appetite. Back then, he had been unwilling to be possessed by her, so she had to use all sorts of other methods to have him, each one more shocking than the last. He had to submit to protect his innocence. In bed, Jax had always been afraid of Lily. She was too wild. No man could handle her. Lily recalled the days when Jax had resisted her so fiercely. Compared to how obedient he was now, how his eyes were always on her, he was still just as stubborn at his core, but his appeal to her was unchanged. Her Jax at any time, in any state, was the Jax she loved most. To keep him from leaving, she was willing to be the woman behind him, at least until he could truly stand on his own. After Lily spoke, the whispers in the room died down completely. She didn't even have to do anything. A simple statement of her position was enough for everyone to know which side to take. Is Ms. Aster treating Skyler Pierce like a beggar? A nobody who wears a fake and damages a brand's image really thinks she's something special. That Skyler is Jax Pierce's sister, right? She must have seen that he's worth something now and came to leech off her successful little brother. She's probably here to use him to get close to Ms. Aster. Haha. And that stunt with the ruby bracelet was probably just a desperate bid for attention. Mr. Pierce is worth hundreds of millions now. Who would care about a little ruby bracelet? Ahem, I was lucky enough to see that exact ruby bracelet a few days ago at an underground auction. A mysterious buyer bought it for $70 million. To be honest, with Jax's current net worth, he could afford it. But the bracelet alone is worth a huge chunk of his entire fortune. Would he really be willing to spend that much? Or did he buy a fake to fool Ms. Aster? It's not like she seems to care about whether jewelry is real or not. She looks like she'd wear a Soda tab on her finger and show it off proudly as long as it was from him. A love-struck heiress. For a woman like that, who wants nothing but your love to fall for him. Jax's ancestors must be knocking their heads on the ground in the underworld from sheer gratitude. Really? Oh, ancestors in the great beyond. If you can hear me, please knock your heads for me too. I beg you, send me a love-struck heiress. The socialites, who had been pretending to mind their own business, now started to eye Skyler with renewed suspicion. Just then, the waiter sent by Trent Crawford made his move, pretending to stumble as he approached Skyler, ready to douse her cheap knockoff gown in red wine. If he succeeded, Skyler would have an excuse to leave and change. But the next second, Lily's leg shot out. With an imperious, nonchalant air, she tripped the waiter. The trajectory of the wine glass changed. It flew high into the air and then came crashing down directly on Skyler's head. Who did that? Watch where you're going. Skyler shrieked. Anyone would break down after being doused with red wine, but this was worse. The glass shattered on impact, and shards rained down from her head, mixed with the wine. The broken pieces slid down her face, threatening to cut her. It hurts! It hurts so much! Skyler screamed, reaching up to brush the glass away. But Isabelle's high heel was right there. With a casual flick of her foot, she tripped the already blinded Skyler. Skyler was about to fall, and the glass shards would have undoubtedly dug into her skin, maybe even her eyes. But a hand suddenly shot out and steadied her swaying body. Trent Crawford's face was grim. He shot Skyler a look of pure frustration, then gave his assistant a sharp nod to start cleaning her up. There were glass fragments, but with careful work, her face could be saved from permanent damage. A few minor cuts had appeared on her cheeks, but they were small and wouldn't scar. Trent took the opportunity to step in front of Lily. His pursuit of her had been a sensational topic in New York for years. People called him a madman for liking a monster like her, asking if he had a death wish. But only Trent knew the truth. They were all fools who couldn't appreciate her beauty. They weren't worthy of it. Well, who's made our beautiful Isabelle so angry? He said, his voice smooth as silk. I'll have to track them down tomorrow and make them atone. We can't have our dear Lily getting upset now, can we? That would be a grave sin. Wouldn't you agree, Lily? It's been too long. You're as beautiful as ever. Trent positioned himself in front of Skyler, who immediately understood that her backer was stepping in to save her. She couldn't help but feel a pang of anxiety for him. She might have a chance against Isabelle, but Lily was the wild card. And she was Isabelle's aunt. It was a given that Lily would protect her niece. One wrong move, and she, Skyler, would be annihilated. This place was a lion's den. She was a smart woman, and she could see it now. Trent had dragged her here to be a pawn in his fight against Jax. But Skyler wanted to settle her own score with Jax. In that sense, their goals were aligned. So she obediently stepped behind Trent and let his assistant tend to her face. When Isabelle saw Trent appear, her expression darkened instantly. The Crawford family was a major power. Trent himself was ruthless and cruel, a dragon in the business world who currently ruled the tech industry. He was a leader among the new generation of tycoons. While he couldn't compare to the Astor dynasty, he had earned the right to pursue Lily, and he was dead set on it. The fact that he hadn't made any rash moves against Jax proved he was a clever man. But a treacherous, snake-like businessman like him was often the hardest to deal with. Furthermore, Summit Enterprises had subsidiaries that were intertwined with the Astor conglomerate through holding companies. This web of business entanglements was his safety net. The Crawfords and the Astors held shares in each other's businesses. If Lily really wanted to move against him, it would trigger a cascade of consequences. But in the year and a half that Trent had been pursuing Lily, aside from occasionally showing up at the Astor Group headquarters to be turned away and shamelessly staring at her at the few banquets she couldn't avoid, he hadn't done anything truly egregious. There was no real reason to get rid of him. Isabelle frowned at Trent's flirty banter and forced a gracious smile. TSK, that's a strange thing to say, Mr. Crawford. Anyone with eyes can see who made me unhappy. If you can't even see that, perhaps you should switch places with your dog at home. And another suggestion, Mr. Crawford. You should start growing mushrooms in your cellar. If you don't have a cellar, then never mind. Isabelle's tone was light and mocking, her casual words dripping with contempt. Her family wasn't as powerful as the Crawfords, but if a rat from the gutter like him was going to set his sights on her Aunt Lily, she wouldn't hesitate to risk everything to get rid of him herself. A true suitor had decorum. Trent's business tactics were one thing, but it was obvious to everyone that he had signed Skyler just to annoy Jax and show off his own superiority. In their circle, power was everything. They didn't care about ordinary people. Trent hadn't made a move before simply because, until now, Jax hadn't been worthy of his attention. He wasn't above playing dirty. He just hadn't considered Jax a worthy opponent. That was the arrogance of the capitalist class. Now that he was forced to, he was finally treating Jax as a rival in business and in love. Isabelle's insults were sharp, but she was usually so poised, maintaining a gentle, cool, goddess-like image. It was rare to see her lose control. Standing nearby, Sam watched the scene, fascinated. As her #1 fan, he had never seen this domineering side of Isabelle before. He couldn't take his eyes off her. Isabelle turned and saw his astonished expression. A gentle smile spread across her face again. Sam, what's wrong? Sam's heart leaped. He met her gaze, and his pulse hammered. He felt paralyzed. The image of her gentle, caring side flooded his mind. Her delicate fingers carefully bandaging his wounds, the light, unconscious brush of her fingertips against his back sending waves of heat through him. To say he felt nothing would be a lie. A man will always have a special place in his heart for the unattainable goddess he worships. And when that goddess suddenly appears in your life, caring for you, touching you, just being near you, who could resist? This was what Sam couldn't handle. He had loved Kira, truly loved her. But during those 2 days in the hospital, Isabelle's company had completely captivated him. He had barely thought about his childhood sweetheart at all. Was that cheating? Sam couldn't sort out his own feelings. Nothing. You're just amazing, Ms. Croft. So amazing that no matter which side of her he saw, he was unworthy. Sam said no more. This wasn't the time for them to discuss their feelings. Isabelle's words, however, had hit their mark. Trent's face darkened. Isabelle, is that how you speak to your elders? Is that the kind of upbringing your family provides? He thought that by positioning himself as Lily's peer, he could put Isabelle in her place. Isabelle's stage name was Isabelle, but her real name was Isabelle Astor. Lilith Astor, Isabelle Astor. The similarity in their names was a testament to how much Lily favored her and how close the aunt and niece were. Isabelle Astor was a name the entertainment industry couldn't handle. That's why she had stage name. The moment the Astor name was mentioned, everyone would know she was a dynastic heiress, and who wouldn't give her the respect she was due. Even now, Trent only dared to say your family, not your Astor family. Lily was the current head of the Astor family. One mention of your Astor family, and Lily would not let him off the hook. That's right, Isabelle shot back. Is there something wrong with the Astor family's teachings, Mr. Crawford? My aunt taught me that the women of the Astor family are a cut above the rest. We can do whatever we want, and she will always have our backs. What? Do you have a problem with my aunt's educational methods? Isabelle was on fire, giving him no quarter. Every mention of the Astor family and my Aunt Lily was backed by absolute power. Jax watched the scene, touching his nose lightly. He was also shocked. Isabelle was Lily's niece, and it looked like she was interested in Sam. If this really happened, not only would he be Sam's daddy, but he would also be promoted to Sam's uncle-in-law. How satisfying. Trent was speechless, struggling to catch his breath. Isabelle, you are you. Why must you drag your Aunt Lily into everything? Isabelle didn't let up. To guard against certain petty people who look down on others, who think that just because they have a little bit of money and seniority, they can treat us youngsters like dirt. Mr. Crawford, you've surely never met such vile people. Their mouths are just foul. Of course, you're not that kind of person, are you, Mr. Crawford? She smiled again, a gentle smile that didn't reach her eyes, making it all the more terrifying. Trent realized he couldn't win a war of words. He had to swallow his pride. Of course not. I'm not that kind of person. It's been a while since I've seen Lily. How has she been lately? Trent's eyes darted around, his gaze inevitably landing on Lily again. He wanted her so badly. To have her, to possess her. He would willingly die in her arms. To taste a woman like her just once in his life would make it all worthwhile. It has been a while, Mr. Crawford. So long that you seem to have forgotten how to address me. Lily's voice was like ice. Is Lily a name you are worthy of speaking? Her cold gaze swept over him, a wave of killing intent washing over the room. The pressure dropped, plunging the atmosphere into a frigid valley. Nathan. The next moment, Nathan's towering figure emerged from the shadows. Without a word, he drove a fist into Trent's face. Trent stumbled backward and fell, spitting out a mouthful of blood and a few teeth. Call me by the wrong name again, Mr. Crawford, and I won't mind pulling out your tongue, Lily said, her voice low and dangerous. And it won't be as simple as a few teeth. She looked down at him, her gaze cold and dark, for only a second. But she didn't notice. Sprawled on the floor, his expensive suit dirted and his face injured, Trent was consumed by a wave of pain. But as he lay there, his eyes were filled with a terrifying, ecstatic glow. She hit me. She looked at me. She spoke to me, cursed at me. So satisfying. It's so damn satisfying. As long as Lily would look at him, this was all worth it. Trent's body trembled, the thrill almost suffocating him. And another thing, Lily's voice softened, and a rare smile touched her lips. She lifted her hand, showing off the simple diamond ring on her ring finger. It wasn't even a full carat, but the blissful smile on her face made it more precious than a billion-dollar jewel. Call me Mrs. Pierce. My husband doesn't like other men coveting me. If you won't give up, then you could just give up on living. Hiss. The crowd collectively shivered. Why would you provoke her? And you want to pursue her? Do you have a death wish? Trent pushed himself up, staring in disbelief at the tiny, unremarkable diamond on Lily's ring finger. It felt like a desecration of her noble, ethereal status. Why? A woman of Lily's standing should be high above, shining like the sun and moon. Being with a penniless pretty boy like Jax was a complete degradation of her class. Jax was not worthy of her. A man like him, who couldn't give her the best of everything, should have been kicked to the curb long ago. He was a cuckoo in the nest. In that moment, Trent remembered the pigeon's blood ruby bracelet Jax had just presented. Judging by the cheapness of the tiny diamond ring he had given her, the so-called ruby bracelet was undoubtedly stolen. Skyler was right. Jax had almost certainly stolen his mother's jewelry to curry favor with Lily. A man with such a flawed character, a thief, could never manage a company properly. With this thought, Trent's gaze shifted back to Skyler, who was still watching Jax intently. Skyler had been stewing over the fact that Jax had apparently stolen her mother's bracelet. If it weren't for Lily's presence, she would have already interrogated him. Now, she knew her backer, Summit Enterprises, needed her to act. It was her time to prove her loyalty. Summit was the largest tech conglomerate in the country, its influencer marketing division light years ahead of the competition. With the current boom in the influencer economy, their profits were already surpassing those of the celebrity market. That was why she had chosen to sign with them. It was a mutually beneficial partnership. With that in mind, Skyler turned away and pulled out her phone to call Caleb. Caleb, are you at home? She said, not bothering to lower her voice. Go to the safe right now and check if Mom's pigeon's blood ruby bracelet from her dowry is missing. That bracelet is the most valuable piece of jewelry she owns. Jax already stole a $5 million sapphire necklace from her last time. Now he's gotten bolder. He actually dared to touch Mom's most precious, multi-million-dollar jewel. Her voice carried. The fact that she and Jax were family was undeniable. The fact that she was his older sister was also undeniable. By making this call publicly, she was broadcasting her certainty. Jax was a dog who couldn't be taught new tricks. He was a thief when he was poor, and even in a wealthy family like the Pierces, he couldn't shake his petty, thieving habits. No wonder everyone in the family looked down on him. Had he ever tried to change? The reason he was despised was because his own character was rotten to the core. Jax and Lily heard every word. The darkness in Lily's eyes deepened, But since Jax didn't react, she couldn't either. Instead, she stepped forward and took his hand with the hand that wore the ring. Jax, I believe you. Even if the whole world doubted Jax's character, Lily would never stand against him. She was a Jaxist to her core. Her principles, her morals, everything would bend for him. And besides, even if he had stolen the jewelry from that so-called mother of his to please her, didn't that just mean he cared about her? What was so wrong with that? The Pierce family had always shown unconditional favoritism to Caleb. It was something Jax had never had. But Lily was willing to give it to him. Whenever, wherever, she would always favor him and him alone. Jax squeezed her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers. In truth, he felt a little ashamed of the small ring he had bought her. The pink diamond was lost, so he had thought to give her the ruby bracelet first. He never wanted to be careless with his gifts to her. He had a plan to do things step by step. But in the eyes of others, he had indeed wronged Lily. Yes, he said softly. Lily, don't worry. I don't have a stealing habit. Caleb, on the other hand, did. But this time, the information gap made one thing clear to Jax. The Pierces had never, not for a second, considered him family. 2 years ago, when he was framed for stealing his mother's $5 million jewel, he didn't even know the combination to the safe or what was inside. All it took was Caleb saying he had told Jax the code, and suddenly he was the prime suspect. He was labeled a thief to be watched, and Caleb, with the full trust of the family, had remained perfectly hidden. After that incident, he was barred from ever getting near the family safe or any other valuables. He had no idea what jewelry his mother owned or what her dowry consisted of. Otherwise, he never would have bought a ruby bracelet that she also happened to possess. Besides, there was more than one pigeon's blood ruby bracelet in the world. Jax didn't think for a second that the one in his hand had anything to do with Eleanor Pierce. On the other end of the line, Caleb sounded surprised that Jax had supposedly stolen their mother's bracelet. Third sister, what did you say? How could Jax do something like that? There must be some misunderstanding. I just came home to get some clothes before going to the hospital to see Mom. For Jax's sake, I'll go check the safe right now. Caleb's voice was hesitant, as if he were being forced into it. He sounded like he trusted Jax, but his faltering, uncertain tone betrayed his true feelings. The shrewd guests listening in could almost feel his predicament. Jax must have a record, which was why the whole family was so wary of him. TSK, how could Ms. Aster fall for a man like that? It's so degrading. He's completely lowered her standards. Yes, go check, Skyler demanded, though in her heart, the verdict was already in. Caleb went upstairs. There was a lot of fumbling on the other end. A few minutes later, a sharp intake of breath came through the phone. Hiss, third sister. Mom's pigeon's blood ruby bracelet is really gone. And her entire set of pearl jewelry is gone too. Did we get robbed? Caleb's words were like a final judgment. Every eye in the room, filled with suspicion and disgust, turned to Jax. Even their opinion of Lily's taste was starting to waver. Suddenly, a low, magnetic female voice cut through the phone. Caleb, what are you doing at Mom's safe again? Sneaking around. The newcomer's voice interrupted the conversation. Caleb seemed to freeze. He turned, and, at that moment, it sounded as if something had dropped, and the line went dead. Skyler, who was on the phone, was thrown off by the sudden interruption. She had thought she had him, that she could finally ruin Jax's reputation in front of everyone, or at least tarnish it. But this sudden turn of events was like a slap in the face. Caleb, her dear brother Caleb? Impossible. Caleb had known the safe combination since he was a child, and in all these years, not a single piece of their mother's jewelry had ever gone missing. He was family. She trusted him completely. Seeing the looks of suspicion spreading through the crowd after the call was dropped, Skyler quickly tried to recover. Don't misunderstand. My brother Caleb does occasionally check on my mother's jewelry in the safe, and it's all because of Jax. If he hadn't stolen Mom's jewelry 3 years ago to pay off his gambling debts, we wouldn't have to be so careful. Jax, you are my brother. Do you think I don't know what kind of person you are? She declared, her voice ringing with righteous fury. Hand over the ruby bracelet now, and come home with me to kneel before Mother and beg for forgiveness. Admit your mistake, or I will make sure you are nailed to the pillar of shame for the rest of your life. I won't cover for your thieving habits from 3 years ago any longer. Skyler stood like a righteous executioner, ready to bring down judgment on Jax. Skyler Pierce, are you so sure that this bracelet in my hand belongs to Eleanor Pierce? This time, Jax didn't even bother with the polite Mrs. Pierce. He was done with the Pierce family. Jax, you know it yourself. Pigeon's blood rubies are incredibly rare. This bracelet, with its pure, vibrant color, is the most precious piece from my mother's dowry. You have good taste, I'll give you that. You picked her most valuable item. What are you trying to argue? My mother's ruby bracelet is the purest on the market. I've seen it, and it looks exactly like the one in your hand. Skyler insisted, stepping forward. She knew Jax too well. His low-life habits were ingrained in him, pickled into his very bones. Stealing was the fastest way for someone like him to suck up to Lily Astor. Fine, Jack said with a calm smile. Let's get a jewelry appraiser. But Skyler, if you're wrong, what will you do? He stood his ground, tall and straight as a pine tree. Standing next to Lily, he didn't feel overshadowed at all. They looked perfectly matched. He wasn't angry. He just smiled at her. His gaze made Skyler uneasy. But she wouldn't back down. He was trying to bluff her. This was the moment she had to press her advantage. Besides, she loathed his habit of repeatedly stealing from their own home. Whether it was to crush him or to discipline a disobedient brother, she had to break his stubborn spine in front of everyone. Bend his knees, make him kneel, make him grovel, make him admit his mistake. In Skyler's mind, only by trampling his dignity and self-respect into the dirt could Jax ever possibly repent. She was doing this to save his character. In the end, he would have to thank her for her strict, tough love education. Jax, I am not mistaken, she declared, her eyes clear and determined, filled with absolute conviction. You thief. You should be thinking about how you're going to kneel in the ancestral hall and face the family's discipline when the truth comes out. TSK, if I really did steal Eleanor Pierce's ruby bracelet, I'll let you do whatever you want with me, Jack said, his voice ringing through the silent room. I currently hold a large stake in JX Innovations. It's valued at several $100 million. I'll give you half of my shares. How about that? The entire room was stunned. Lily's expression didn't change. She had handed the stage over to Jax, retreating to the background. But not a single person dared to ignore her presence. Who among the guests at this party wasn't a hungry wolf? If Jax had come alone, even if he had wanted to win, to hold his ground, it would have been a hellishly difficult task. But now, under Lily's formidable presence, all the wolves had to pretend to be sheep, serving as practice dummies for Jax. Even so, Jax's sensational bet had made all the wolves reveal their greedy fangs. This was no joke. JX Innovations wasn't a huge piece of the pie right now, but any investor with vision could see its limitless potential. Several $100 million? That was just the beginning. And with Lily Astor secretly pulling the strings, it was destined to become an industry giant. Every investor in the room was desperate to get their hands on even a tiny piece of JX Innovations' initial stock. Suddenly, everyone was looking at Jax with hungry, covetous eyes. If it weren't for Lily holding court, they would have pounced on him, ready to tear him apart. Skyler had just returned to the country, but she was a well-known behind-the-scenes entrepreneur in international investment circles. Her eye for business was sharp and unique. The AI sector she was currently betting on hadn't fully formed yet, but she already had her fingers in the development technology abroad. And AI was a technology that would directly interface with the internet in the future. Its growth potential was immense. Right now, very few companies in their home country were involved in AI development. Coincidentally, Jax's new company, JX Innovations, was one of them. Not only that, but Jax had been pouring money into headhunting and acquiring top-of-the-line equipment for AI research from the very beginning. That kind of foresight was years ahead of most domestic companies, especially for a new startup. Of course, Skyler didn't believe for a second that Jax had thought of this himself. A country bumpkin like him? What did he know? He was probably just a pawn in Lily's grand commercial chess game, and he was actually starting to believe his own hype. So, Jax, what do you want from me? She asked, her tone condescending. First of all, don't even think about asking me to take you back to the Pierce family to beg for their forgiveness. She frowned, her posture once again becoming haughty. What could Jax possibly want? His lifelong ambition was probably just to pathetically win the approval of the Pierce family. But that pitiful scrap of validation was something they would never give him. It all depended on his performance. Jax almost laughed out loud. When you're truly speechless, you can't help but laugh. Skyler, are you for real? I haven't laughed this hard since. Ever, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Has the Pentagon called? They could use your shamelessness to armor a tank. When a dog barks, you know what it wants. You're just making noise. Jax's blunt, disrespectful words made Skyler's face darken, but she knew this wasn't the time to argue. Logic took over. She was obsessed with building businesses, and her investments abroad were starting to pay off. She wasn't just a race car driver marketing her racing beauty image for high-paying endorsements. Her path was carefully planned. The industries that truly fascinated her were international healthcare, the expansion of traditional medicine abroad, and the developing field of AI. AI was still in its infancy abroad, but it was undeniably the future. The current boom in the influencer and internet economies was a clear sign. History always moves forward, and only those at the forefront, who know how to ride the wave and conquer new technologies, are qualified to reap the rewards. In this era, hard work wasn't enough. Choosing the right path, one that aligned with the winds of change, was the key to wealth. Jax knew this too, and as he looked at Skyler, the pieces of his grander strategy clicked into place. His mind raced, seeing the chessboard not just for this party, but for the next 5 years. He remembered it all with chilling clarity from his previous life. He knew Skyler's racing career was about to explode, not just because of her skill, but because of the custom, god-tier car he had designed for her, the Predator. And he knew that her future plans extended far beyond the racetrack. They led directly to a man named Yi Qian, a brilliant AI developer with a God-given talent for research and development. Yi Qian was a patriot, a quiet genius who would be so captivated by Skyler's victory in an upcoming underground race that he would pledge his loyalty to her, following her abroad to spearhead her AI ventures. Many of his patents would end up credited to South Korean companies, a tragic loss for their home country. Jax's own plans for JX Innovations had reached a critical stage where he needed a talent like Yi Qian. Talent was the lifeblood of innovation. If money and formal invitations couldn't move him, then he would have to be more creative. He had to cut Skyler off at the pass. Business was war. There was no room for mercy. Cunning was a weapon. The so-called morality espoused by the titans at the top was just propaganda to keep the grunts in line. The real wolves, the ones who made it, were all ruthless. And Jax's plan was simple. Take Skyler's path and get to Yi Qian first. This bet wasn't just about a bracelet. It was about her future. Skyler, I don't need anyone's forgiveness from the Pierce family, Jax said, his voice cutting through her thoughts. I just want the material formula and global distribution channels for YK Semiconductor. A collective gasp went through the crowd. The gall of this man? Jax really was a businessman. But what did YK Semiconductor have to do with Skyler? YK was a well-known emerging AI tech company in South Korea, rumored to be backed by the government to develop high-tech for the future. An international corporation of that level had a business structure that was not easily deciphered. On the surface, they dealt in semiconductors and consumer electronics, but behind the scenes, they were pouring resources into AI development. This technology was a race between humanity and artificial intelligence, requiring a constant output of time, money, and talent. And on a global scale, only a conglomerate of that size had the resources to undertake such a massive project. That was the power of the parent YK Group. But YK Semiconductor was just a branch with a market value of only a few $100 million. The real power was the YK Group behind it, which could inject capital at any time. This was all common knowledge to the top-tier tycoons in the room. What surprised them was that Jax, who shouldn't have access to this level of internal information, knew these details. Any company had a public face. To know its true strength, you had to be in the same circle. For Jax to have broken through that information barrier was a critical step. But in everyone's eyes, this was just information Lily had fed him. No one cared about Jax's own abilities. Ms. Astor is truly the head of the Astor dynasty. She even knows about such a secretive new development path for the YK Group. It seems she's planning a global takeover of the semiconductor industry. TSK. Jax is definitely a tool. His influencer agency is doing well, no doubt, but compared to the semiconductor market, which requires global hard power, that's just a small piece of cake. The real money, the industry that accumulates over 20% of the world's wealth, is still in manufacturing. Essential industries like chip manufacturing and semiconductor core memory. That's the foundation. That's the bedrock of any electronics conglomerate. My God, when the head of the Astor family makes a move, you know it's big. Conquering the domestic market is nothing. Her ambition, her ability, is to conquer the global market. Am I the only one wondering what Skyler Pierce has to do with YK Semiconductor? A little race car driver connected to the core of the YK Group's semiconductor industry. Does she have that kind of power? The titans of the finance and tech industries were getting restless. Jax, are you crazy? Skyler sputtered. How could YK Tech possibly have anything to do with me? And you have the nerve to ask for so much? What makes you think your little internet company is worth the secrets of YK's semiconductor supply chain? Jax, that's not how you do business. You're delusional. Skyler's face was beet red. The fact that she was one of YK Tech's investors was a secret she had guarded fiercely, even from her own family. She wanted to maintain the image of a vase beauty to fool her domestic competitors. And she had succeeded. But now, Jax had just exposed her secret for all to see. Did Lily Astor set her sights on me? The thought was terrifying. Skyler, YK Semiconductor's business has hit a bottleneck recently, hasn't it? Jax said, his voice calm and steady. The global market share for semiconductor memory has already been carved up. Without technological advancement, you're just treading water, waiting to be eliminated by the changing times. Right now, your only core competency is your cheap raw material import channels. He leaned in slightly. But what if I told you that Pierce Astor International has already secured the mining rights to your raw material bases for the next 5 years? Every word he spoke was delivered with the unshakable confidence of someone who had already won. Skyler was starting to panic. She wasn't afraid of Jax. She was afraid of the woman behind him. The power of the Astor dynasty was something that she and YK Tech could not withstand. Jax, what do you really want? Why are you threatening me like this? You're lying. The raw material bases aren't even in South Korea. You're bluffing. Skyler's composure was cracking. She prided herself on being a practical, driven businesswoman with a talent for investment and a cool head for analysis. But the thought of going up against the Astor conglomerate was enough to make her lose control. Watching her expression twist, her composure shatter, Jax finally smiled. Ms. Pierce, so you were an investor in YK Tech. So many electronics industry tycoons here, yet you were the only one to hide your identity. What? Are you a spy for a foreign power? Skyler's world came crashing down. Skyler Pierce, you concealed your identity as an investor in YK Tech and returned to the country. On the surface, your business has nothing to do with semiconductors, but there are plenty of industry leaders here tonight. Why were you invited? What were your intentions? Business was war. If she was playing dirty, then the spectators would no longer be content to just watch. Trent Crawford's eyes narrowed on Skyler's face. For the first time, he considered the possibility that he had miscalculated. Was this Skyler Pierce someone even he couldn't control? Was he holding a money-making tool that was about to kick him into a ditch? The information Jax had just revealed was explosive. The crowd's gaze turned sharp, their wariness of Skyler growing. She wanted to argue, but she was trapped. She had indeed invested in YK Tech's AI development. As long as it wasn't exposed, no one would connect her to the AI industry. They were two completely different fields. But now that the cat was out of the bag, denial was useless. Any tycoon here could pull up YK Tech's shareholding structure in under a minute. There was no point in lying. She had to face Jax. The spotlight of the party had suddenly shifted to her, and she had the sinking feeling that Jax had dug this pit long ago, just waiting for her to return and fall in. The thought was terrifying. Her knuckles whitened as she clutched her phone. Don't panic. Trust Caleb. Besides Jax, no one else in the family is a thief. Who else could have stolen the ruby bracelet? I'm just a woman who, on the advice of a mentor, happened to invest a bit of my own money in YK Tech, she said, forcing herself to sound calm. My share is not large. It's certainly not enough to give me the status to mingle with all of you as a major investor. That's why I didn't announce my identity. But in your mouth, Jax, it sounds like I came back with ulterior motives. You're the one who was caught stealing from your own mother. Aren't you just trying to pin a crime on me to distract from your own guilt? Skyler fought back. She realized that Jax's every question had been a trap, and she had walked right into it. He had masterfully shifted everyone's attention from himself to her. He was cruel, terrifying. A chill ran down her spine. Her words weren't without merit. It wasn't unusual for a celebrity to make small investments, but her investment in YK Tech was by no means small. So Ms. Pierce's identity is clear, Jax said, his voice smooth and steady. Are you going to take this bet? Make this deal? I've shown my sincerity. Throughout their negotiation, Jax had remained disturbingly rational. He no longer showed any of the soft-heartedness he once had for his family. Lily, watching from close by, saw this with growing clarity. A wicked little idea began to sprout in her mind. Maybe I should test the waters a little. A predatory light danced in Lily's eyes as they scanned the room. Her hands, she thought, had been clean for far too long. She almost missed the feeling of her pale, slender fingers stained with the crimson liquid of pigeon's blood. The thought excited her. Her gaze swept the room until it met another. That person seemed to know exactly what she was thinking. A figure as lazy and noble as a Persian cat stood up and glided toward them, red wine glass in hand. All right, isn't it just a string of glass beads? Quinn Vanderbilt's voice cut through the tension. Is it really worth all this drama? She walked with an elegant stride, a fiery aura radiating from her that instantly captured everyone's attention. Jax looked down. As a married man, and one whose wife was the gentle and cool Lily Astor, Maintaining his virtue was essential. Glass beads? These are Pigeon's blood rubies. Skyler snapped back before she even saw who was speaking. The casual dismissal of her mother's most treasured jewel was an insult. A string of top-grade Pigeon's blood rubies, even at a gathering like this, was a collector's item. It was not some common trinket. The comment also displeased Lily. She didn't care if they were glass beads or rubies. If Jax gave them to her, she would wear them proudly. It was a rare gift from him. She would treasure it. Oh, are Pigeon's blood rubies that precious? Quinn said with a lazy smile. I have boxes of them in my vault. My dogs won't even play with them. They say they hurt their teeth. Ms. Pierce, do you think everyone is like your family, treating a piece of trash like a treasure and suspecting everyone of wanting to steal it? This bracelet of Jax's, she continued, her voice dripping with condescension, just so happens to be one of the items sold from my family's private auction house recently. Compared to some of the shoddy goods on the market, it's a genuine collector's piece. From the beginning, Ms. Pierce, you've been accusing Jax of theft without a shred of evidence. This blatant slander. Do you really think that as a minor investor in YK Tech, you have the right to cast aspersions on the son-in-law of the Astor dynasty? Quinn's regal presence completely eclipsed Skyler. The world knew the two heiresses of the Astor and Vanderbilt dynasties were terrifyingly ruthless, but people often forgot that they were also stunningly beautiful. That was because no one dared to admire their beauty. They were like poisonous flowers. People were too afraid of the venom to appreciate the vibrant petals. Skyler was numb. Lily's silence was enough to make her panic. Now, being targeted by Quinn Vanderbilt, she felt as if she had hit rock bottom. In any case, I will not let the matter of Jax's theft rest. Skyler choked out, her last breath of defiance. In that case, I will act as guarantor, Quinn declared. The bet you two have just made is now official. As the guarantor, I will take a 5% commission on the wager. With my guarantee, I can ensure that all subsequent transfers of assets will proceed smoothly. How about it? With Quinn Vanderbilt guaranteeing the deal, no one would dare to default. It was a guarantee that not just anyone could get. And at a commission of only 5% with the backing of the Vanderbilt group, anyone else would be jumping for joy. Skyler's eyes narrowed. She had seen her mother's ruby bracelet, and Caleb had said on the phone that it was missing. If she was just betting on this one thing, she could get half of Jax's shares in JX Innovations and a say in the company's management. It was like a pie falling from the sky. All she needed was for Jax to have actually stolen the bracelet. And that was a certainty. He was a repeat offender. His bluff now was just a desperate attempt to scare her off with high stakes, to get away with it again. Just like last time, when he had stolen the jewelry and their parents had wanted to beat him to death in the ancestral hall. But the kind-hearted Caleb had stopped them. Caleb was too kind. That's why he had forgiven Jax time and time again, only to be betrayed. This time, she would not make the same mistake. She would teach Jax a lesson. Fine, she said, her voice firm. I am certain that the ruby bracelet in Jax's hand is my mother's. I agree to the bet with Ms. Vanderbilt as guarantor. Jax, do you dare? A strange look flashed in Jax's eyes, a flicker of surprise, as if he couldn't believe her choice. His momentary hesitation only strengthened Skyler's conviction. Jax had no confidence at all. You little thief. This time, I'm going to make you bleed. Fine, Jax said after a pause. I also accept Ms. Vanderbilt's guarantee. Jax nodded, his gaze landing on Quinn's face, a flicker of calculation in his eyes. Having Quinn Vanderbilt as a guarantor was a brilliant move, a final nail in the coffin that would force Skyler's hand. He hadn't had much interaction with her before, knowing only that she and Lily were close. It was a one-sided friendship, with Quinn always seeming to offer help, which was odd for two heiresses of rival dynasties. Jax found it strange, but for now, he would use it. Skyler, having agreed, still didn't believe Quinn's casual claim that the bracelet came from her family's auction. To her, it was just another smokescreen, but she was isolated and she needed proof. Excuse me, everyone, she announced, her voice tight with forced composure. To prove I'm telling the truth, I need my family to provide a personal verification. My mother is currently in the hospital, and the authentication documents for her jewelry are kept elsewhere. I need to have them brought here immediately. Skyler turned away, pulling out her phone again. This time, she wasn't calling Caleb. She was calling the one other person she trusted implicitly, her fifth sister, Sierra Pierce. Quinn Vanderbilt nodded at her, making no move to stop the call for outside help. She wasn't acting out of pure altruism. No matter who won the bet, she stood to gain. The 5% commission was pocket change for the Vanderbilt group, but the real prize was the information. Insight into YK Tech's global semiconductor supply chain and its raw material sources was an irresistible temptation. She was a businesswoman, and this was a no-lose situation. Plus, it put Jax in her debt, which in turn put Lily in her debt. A win-win. So, Lily, Quinn drawled, turning to her friend. Are you more interested in the internet industry these days, or the semiconductor and chip market? You're my business weather vane, you know. Wherever you point, that's where I'll aim. The words were teasing, but they touched on a truth everyone in the room knew. The Astor dynasty was a global behemoth in chips, semiconductors, shipping, and oil. The internet was a new playground for them, but one they already controlled through a complex web of holding companies. As for AI, Lily had been secretly funding a private lab of scientists for 2 years. The foresight of these dynasties often outpaced society itself. The Vanderbilts were different. They had built their fortune on a foundation of hard industries like pharmaceuticals and mining. It was only under Quinn that they had expanded into electronics and global logistics. They had the capital, but in this space, they were direct competitors with the Astors. This was why everyone expected the two heiresses to be rivals, not friends. And yet, Quinn often ceded lucrative projects to the Astors, and Lily would occasionally toss a guaranteed moneymaker Quinn's way. Their relationship was a source of endless speculation. Quinn, stop with the sarcasm, Lily said coolly. And don't you ever call the gift Jax gave me cheap again. This bracelet is very precious. I love it. Quinn Vanderbilt rolled her eyes. My God, my love-struck friend. Your vault has more boxes of these rubies than mine. Well, I gave you 2 whole crates for your birthday last year. I don't recall you using the word precious. I guess my love was wasted on you.